When I was 10, my mother threw me away on a train to marry her new husband. 12 years later, the revenge she never saw coming made her call me 84 times in one night. I was 10 years old, wearing my father's oversized jacket that still smelled like his cologne, when my mother abandoned me on a train bound for nowhere. Dad had been dead for 3 months. Heart attack at 38. One minute he was teaching me to ride a bike, the next he was gone. Mom didn't even wait for the funeral flowers to wilt before Marcus moved in. Marcus was a hotel developer, rich, charming, and he made it clear from day one that I was baggage from her previous life. The morning it happened, Mom told me we were visiting Grandma 4 hours away. I believed her. I was 10. Halfway through the journey, she stood up, grabbed her purse, and looked at me like she was throwing away expired leftovers. "Stay here," she said. "Someone will come for you." I reached for her hand. She pulled away like I was diseased. "Mom, where are you going?" She leaned close. "I'm starting a new life now, and you're not part of it." The train doors closed. She was gone. I sat in that seat for 6 hours. A conductor finally found me clutching my father's jacket. Police called child services, who tracked down my father's sister, Aunt Patricia. She took me in, worked 60-hour weeks as a paralegal, gave me everything she had. For years, I searched for my mother. Every lead came up empty. She'd erased herself completely. When I was 16, I finally found her online. New last name, new city, new life. She and Marcus had built a boutique hotel empire. They were photographed at charity galas constantly. One caption stopped my heart. "Marcus and Elena Reed at the Children's Hope Foundation dinner. The couple, who have no children of their own, have donated over $2 million to orphan relief efforts. No children of their own. She didn't just abandon me. She erased me, then built a reputation on being childless while attending orphan fundraisers. I spent 6 years becoming someone she couldn't ignore. Yale on scholarship, business, and hospitality. By 22, I'd landed at a major hospitality investment firm, the same one that handled acquisitions in my mother's region. Marcus's hotel group was overleveraged, expanded too fast, debt crushing them. When our firm evaluated distressed properties, their portfolio landed on my desk. I should have recused myself. Instead, I became lead analyst. For 8 months, I studied every weakness: cash flow problems, nervous investors, Marcus hiding losses from his own board. I structured an acquisition that would strip them of everything: hotels, reputation, their carefully curated image. The board approved it unanimously. 3 weeks ago, I flew to their city for closing. They didn't know who I was. I'd kept my father's surname and operated through intermediaries. The conference room was cold. Marcus sat at the head of the table, looking smaller than I'd imagined. My mother sat beside him, still polished, still wearing that look of casual superiority from the train. I introduced myself, using my full legal name. Recognition flickered across her face, then confusion, then fear. "I'm sorry," she said slowly. "Have we met?" I slid the acquisition documents across the table. "You might not remember me, Elena. I was 10 the last time you saw me. You were catching a different train." Silence. Marcus looked between us, lost. My mother's hands shook so badly, she knocked over her water glass. "You told people I died," I continued. "You built a charitable reputation on being childless, while I was eating government cheese in my aunt's apartment." I stood and placed a photograph on the table. My father's jacket, now framed. "This acquisition is happening. You'll lose everything, but I'm not doing this for revenge. I'm doing this because my father would have wanted someone to hold you accountable, and I'm the only one left who remembers what you really are." I walked out without looking back. That night, my phone exploded. 84 missed calls between midnight and 6 a.m. Voicemails alternating between sobbing apologies and accusations that I was destroying innocent people. I listened to every single one. Then I blocked her number permanently. How did someone fail miserably at trying to outsmart you? Sarah and I had been roommates for almost 2 years. We weren't best friends, but we tolerated each other well enough until I got promoted at the marketing firm where we both worked. The position she'd been eyeing for months went to me instead, and that's when everything changed. Then, her supposedly priceless family heirloom necklace went missing. This wasn't just any necklace. It was a white gold pendant with an emerald stone that she never shut up about. I was working late on a Thursday when my phone exploded with texts from our mutual friends asking what I'd done. Confused, I called our other roommate, Jess. "Dude, Sarah is losing it. She's called the landlord, her parents, and like everyone we know, she's saying you stole her grandmother's necklace, and she has proof." What Sarah didn't know is that after my car was broken into 3 months earlier, I'd installed small security cameras throughout our apartment. When I got home, Sarah had invited our landlord, 4 mutual friends, and even her brother to witness her exposing me. There she is. I want her to confess before I call the police. "What exactly am I supposed to have done?" I asked. According to her version, she'd spotted me wearing her necklace last weekend at Brianna's party. That's weird, especially since I was in Chicago visiting my sister last weekend. I wasn't even at Brianna's party. "You're lying," Sarah snapped. "Actually, I installed security cameras after my car got broken into a few months ago." The color drained from Sarah's face so quickly, I thought she might faint. I pulled up the app and found Tuesday's footage. With everyone gathered around my phone, I played the video of Sarah entering her own room, emerging with her jewelry box, removing the necklace, and then carefully hiding it inside the air vent in our hallway bathroom. The room went completely silent. My cousin uninvited me from the family reunion because I got promoted at work and might make her husband feel like a failure. I need to be clear about something. I'm not a CEO. I'm not running a Fortune 500 company. I'm a 29-year-old middle school science teacher who got promoted to department head after 7 years of showing up and not setting anything on fire. That's it. Consistency got me a title and a $4,000 raise. But apparently, career advancement in this family is an act of aggression. My cousin Quinn called me 2 weeks before the reunion. We're close. Or we were. She was my maid of honor. I was at her son's birth. So when she called, I thought maybe she needed help setting up or wanted to coordinate hotel rooms. Instead, she said, "I need to talk to you about something sensitive." Nothing good has ever followed that sentence. She said her husband Wade was going through a difficult time at his job and seeing me might trigger some insecurities. I said, "Quinn, I teach 7th graders about photosynthesis. I'm not exactly intimidating." She said, "You don't understand. Wade's been passed over for promotion twice this year, and you just got one. The optics are bad." The optics. She used the word optics about a family barbecue like we're staging a press conference. I said, I wasn't planning to bring my name tag. She didn't laugh. Then she said, maybe it would be better if I sat this one out. Just this year. Until Wade's career situation stabilized. She offered to send me photos afterward. She tried to photo stream me out of my own family reunion. I called Wade directly. He picked up and sounded confused. What are you talking about? He said. I don't care about your promotion. Congratulations, man. I said. Quinn said you're sensitive about it. He got quiet. Then he said, she's been weird lately. I'll talk to her. He didn't sound insecure. He sounded tired. I called my mom. Surely voice of reason, right? She said, honey, Quinn's been stressed. Wade's job situation is hard on her. Maybe just skip this year to keep the peace. I said, Mom, Wade doesn't even care. She said, well, Quinn cares, and she's hosting. Her house, her rules. Her house. It's at a public park. She reserved a pavilion. She doesn't own the park. My dad said less. He said, your cousin is going through something. Be the bigger person. I am being the bigger person. I'm a person with a job who wants to eat potato salad with my family. My brother Cole was the only sane one. He called and said, this is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. And Dad once tried to fix the dishwasher with duct tape and flooded the kitchen. He paused. I'm going to the reunion. You should too. I decided to go. Not to prove a point. Not to flaunt anything. Because it's a family reunion, and I belong there. I wore jeans and a normal shirt. Didn't bring my offer letter. Didn't mention work at all. I showed up, brought chips, and talked to my uncle about fishing. Quinn saw me, and her face did something I can only describe as competitive horror. She walked over and said, I thought we agreed you weren't coming. I said, no, you decided. I never agreed. She said, this is really selfish. Wade is struggling. Wade was 20 feet away grilling burgers, looking completely fine. I ate my burger, played cornhole with my niece. Wade and I talked about the playoffs. Normal human interaction. Then Quinn's mom, my Aunt Barb, pulled me aside and said, you're making Quinn very uncomfortable. Could you maybe leave early? I said, Aunt Barb, I've been here 40 minutes. She said, well, you've made your appearance. That should be enough. I stayed through dessert. Wade sat next to me. I'm sorry about this, he said quietly. I don't know what's going on with her. I said, not your fault, man. Quinn watched from across the pavilion like I was contaminating her event by existing. The next week, Quinn texted the family group chat. Said she was disappointed in those who disrespected her wishes and made Wade feel inadequate at his own family event. Wade wasn't even in the chat. My mom responded, let's all just move forward. My dad hearted the message. Cole responded, Wade literally grilled my burger and asked if I wanted cheese. He was fine. I called Wade again. He said, I'm sorry. She's seeing a therapist now. Something about comparison anxiety. I said, I hope she gets the help she needs. He said, the worst part? I got promoted last week. She hasn't told anyone because she thinks it'll make your promotion seem less special. I laughed. He didn't. I'm serious, he said. She's keeping my good news quiet so you don't feel overshadowed. The irony suffocated itself. Cole sent me a t-shirt for Christmas. It says, Department Head, in huge letters across the chest. Under it, in small print, Destroyer of family reunions. I wear it to the gym.
When I picked my daughter up from school, she climbed into the back seat instead of the front and said, you forgot about me. It wasn't a question. She said it flat, like she'd already decided what happened and didn't need me to confirm it. I turned around. Nora, what are you talking about? I'm right here. She pulled her backpack onto her lap and stared out the window. Not now. Wednesday. I thought about Wednesday. I'd picked her up at 3:15. Same as every day. She was outside. I pulled up. She got in. Normal. I picked you up Wednesday. I remember. You were late, she said. I was the same time I always am. She didn't answer. I drove home trying to figure out what she meant. She went straight to her room. Didn't ask for a snack. Didn't turn on the TV, closed her door, which she never does. She's 8. Her door is always open. That night, I sat at the kitchen table, running through Wednesday again. 3:15 pickup. She was standing outside. Got in. Quiet, ride home. She'd been quiet that day too. I just hadn't noticed. I texted her teacher, Mrs. Kessler, asked if anything unusual happened Wednesday. The response came 20 minutes later, 3 paragraphs. Wednesday was early dismissal. School let out at 1 us, not 3 us. There'd been an email to all parents the week before. A reminder on Monday. Another one Tuesday morning. I never received a single one. Nora was released at 1 us with every other kid. Parents lined up. Cars pulled in. Kids climbed in, waved, drove off. Nora sat on the bench by the front doors and waited. One by one, every child left. She watched each car come and go. A teacher stayed with her, Ms. Garza. She'd tried the emergency contact number on file 3 times. No answer. I checked my phone. Nothing. No missed calls from anyone. I called Ms. Garza the next morning. She was gentle about it. Said Nora didn't cry the entire time. That was the part that got me. She said Nora sat perfectly still, watching the parking lot like she was studying it. For the first hour, she kept telling me you were coming. Ms. Garza said. She said you probably just forgot it was early. Around 2 UI, she stopped saying it. She stopped saying it. Meaning, at some point on that bench, my daughter quietly decided I wasn't coming and just accepted it. I asked what number she'd called. She read it back to me. My old office line. A job I left 14 months ago. I'd updated my cell with the front desk when I switched positions, but the emergency contact form, the one teachers actually pull from, still had the old number. 3 calls to a phone, ringing on an empty desk in a building I don't work in anymore. I found Nora in her room, sitting on her bed holding a book she wasn't reading. I sat down next to her. I didn't know it was early dismissal. She didn't look up. The school had an old phone number. The emails went to an address I don't use anymore. I had no idea, Nora. I thought I picked you up on time. Quiet for a long time. Then, very small, I thought you just forgot about me. 8 years old, 2 hours on a bench, watching 40 cars pull away. And the story she'd built in her head was that her dad simply forgot she existed for an afternoon. I pulled out my phone right there, called the school on speaker so she could hear every word, updated the cell number, updated the email. Updated every emergency field they had. She listened to all of it. When I hung up, I opened my calendar and added every early dismissal for the rest of the year. Showed her the screen. Red markers all the way through June. She looked at it for a while. Then she leaned into my side. Can you add the half days too? I added everyone.
I told my daughter the real reason her grandmother was never allowed in our house. My daughter Nora came home from school last Tuesday holding a Mother's Day card her teacher made the class write. She asked if she could mail it to Grandma Ruth. She said every other kid in her class had a grandma they could visit, and she wanted to know why she didn't. I told her Grandma Ruth lived far away and made choices that kept her from us. Nora didn't accept that answer. Dad, I'm 13. I'm not stupid. Just tell me what she did. I looked at my wife. She set down the dish towel and nodded once. We'd always promised ourselves we'd tell her when she was old enough to carry the truth. Maybe this was the moment. I sat Nora down in the living room. My hands felt cold. 8 years ago, when you were 5, Grandma Ruth was supposed to watch you for the afternoon. Your mom and I had a doctor's appointment. Just 2 hours. Okay, Nora said. She showed up late. She'd been drinking. We didn't know. She seemed fine when we left. Nora's face didn't move. While we were gone, she put you in her car and drove to a bar across town. She left you in the back seat in August, windows up, for almost an hour. A woman in the parking lot heard you crying and called the police. They broke the window to get you out. Your lips were blue. You spent 2 nights in the hospital. Nora sat very still. Grandma Ruth told the police it was a misunderstanding. She told us she'd only gone in for a minute. We found out later from the bartender she'd had 4 drinks and was trying to pay her tab. She never apologized. Not once. She told your mom we were overreacting. She told the family we were keeping you from her out of spite. Nora asked the question I'd been dreading. Is that why I'm scared of hot cars? Yes. Is that why I have the breathing thing? The doctor said probably. Is that why mom cries on my birthday sometimes? I couldn't answer. My wife put her hand on Nora's shoulder. Your grandmother almost killed you and pretended it was nothing. That's why she's not welcome here. Nora stood up slowly. She went to her room and closed the door. The next morning she asked if she could borrow my old phone. Said she wanted to practice taking photos for art class. I didn't think twice about it. 4 days later, my aunt called me at 6 in the morning. What did your kid do to Ruth? I had no idea what she meant. My aunt said someone had printed out a full packet. Hospital records from August 2017. The police report. The bartender's statement from the original investigation. A photo of Nora in the hospital bed with an oxygen tube. The packets had been mailed to every single member of Grandma Ruth's Bridge Club, her pastor, the assisted living director where she volunteered with children, her 3 best friends, her sister in Ohio. Each packet had a single sentence on the cover page. Ask her why her granddaughter has asthma. Grandma Ruth was asked to stop volunteering by lunchtime. Her Bridge Club uninvited her by Wednesday. Her pastor requested a private meeting. Her sister stopped returning her calls. I hung up and walked into the kitchen. Nora was making toast. Did you send those packets? She buttered her toast carefully. I didn't lie about anything. I just made sure her friends knew who was watching their grandchildren. I should have been furious. I should have told her this wasn't her decision to make. Instead, I sat down across from her. How did you even get the hospital records? Nora took a bite of her toast. They're in the blue folder in your filing cabinet. You told me last year that's where my important papers are, if anything ever happened to you. My wife walked in and saw our faces. What happened? Nora put her plate in the sink. Grandma Ruth is having a hard week. I helped. She picked up her backpack and left for school. Grandma Ruth called that evening from a number I didn't recognize. She was sobbing. She said her whole life had collapsed in 3 days. She said she didn't understand why now. After all these years, I told her she's old enough to read the police report herself. Then I hung up. Nora came home from school today with a pamphlet about a summer art program. First time she's asked for anything in years. I didn't ask how she paid the application fee. She just smiled and said she'd been babysitting on weekends. She's been saving since she was 11. I drove my sister to the airport 2 days early after what she said to my 5-year-old. My sister Nola had always been the person in our family everyone measured themselves against. Older by 6 years, effortlessly put together. The kind of woman who gave advice like she was doing you a favor by noticing you needed it. I spent most of my childhood wanting to be her, and most of my adulthood realizing that wanting had cost me more than I understood. She came to stay for a long weekend. My husband Theo had been genuinely welcoming about it. Set up the guest room, picked up the wine she liked, adjusted his work-from-home schedule so someone was always around while I was at the office. Theo had always been good with my family, even when my family made that difficult. Nola had opinions about how we were raising our daughter Ren, not cruel ones. The kind wrapped in concern so carefully you felt ungrateful for flinching. Was I sure about the preschool? Had I noticed Ren seemed a little shy? Had I thought about whether my work hours were part of that? Each comment landed gently enough to pass as caring, and precisely enough to find the bruise. I'd gone back to work when Ren was 14 months old because we needed the income. I cried in my car the first week. I still check the nanny camera from my desk more than I'd admit to anyone. That guilt lives in a room I keep locked, and Nola has always known exactly where the key is. On the 3rd morning I was at work. Theo called me just after lunch, speaking carefully the way he does when he's trying not to make something sound worse than it is while also not pretending it's fine. He told me that Nola had sat Ren on her lap and told her that when she was little, her mommy stayed home every day because that's what mommies who love their children the most do. She asked Ren if she wished her mommy was home more. Ren found Theo in the kitchen 20 minutes later and asked him why I didn't love her the most. Theo, who had watched me sob over this decision, who held me the night before I went back and told me Ren would never doubt me, had knelt on the kitchen floor and told our daughter that her mommy loved her so much she thought about her every single minute she was away. I left work early. When I got home, Nola was on the couch reading and looked up like it was any other afternoon. Theo had Ren in the backyard and met my eyes through the window in a way that told me everything. I sat down across from Nola and told her what she'd done. She said she'd just been talking to Ren and hadn't meant it like that. I told her she'd taken the one thing I already carried guilt about every single day and handed it to my 5-year-old as a question with a built-in answer. She said I was being dramatic, that Ren wouldn't even remember it. I told her Ren might forget the words, but she would remember the feeling of wondering whether her mother loved her her enough. Nola said I'd always been oversensitive, that our mother agreed I'd change since Ren was born, that everyone could see I was stretched too thin, and she was the only one willing to say it. I told her she needed to leave that afternoon instead of Monday. She stared at me and said she couldn't believe I was doing this over a conversation with a child. I told her that was exactly the problem. I drove her to the airport. She didn't speak until we were almost there and then said I would regret choosing my pride over our relationship. I told her she'd walked into my home, waited until I was at work, and told my daughter that loving her the most meant something I couldn't give her, and that was the thing she needed to sit with, not me. She got out of the car without looking back. Theo asked me that night if I was okay. I told him I wasn't yet, but I would be. He said Ren had asked to call me 3 times that afternoon, and each time just said hi and hung up. I put Ren to bed that night and she held onto my hand after the light was off. She said stay, so I did. My parents dropped me at a shelter when I was 14. Now they need me to save the daughter they replaced me with. My parents drove me to a homeless shelter 3 days after my 14th birthday. Dad carried my garbage bag of clothes to the front desk while Mom stayed in the car with the engine running. The intake worker asked if there was a family member who could take me. Dad said, "We're done," signed the voluntary relinquishment form, walked out, and never looked back. I spent 4 years bouncing between group homes, but Mr. Langston, the night janitor at my last placement, noticed me reading engineering textbooks at 2 a.m. in the common room. He wasn't just some guy pushing a mop. He had a master's in mechanical engineering but lost everything when his wife died. He started tutoring me after his shifts, drove me to my SAT in his beat-up truck, helped me apply to every scholarship that existed. When I aged out at 18, he co-signed my first apartment lease and sat front row at every college milestone I ever hit. I graduated top of my engineering class. Started a medical device company from my dorm room. By 26, we had FDA clearance on a prosthetic limb that costs 1/10 of anything on the market. Now we operate in 9 countries. Last year, we cleared $80 million in revenue. My kid Nora is 6. Adopted from the same system that raised me. Mr. Langston walks her to school every morning. He's the only grandparent she knows. My parents never reached out once. Not when I graduated, not when Forbes ran my profile, not when my face was on the magazine rack at their local grocery store. Their neighbor told me they saw the cover and switched checkout lines. Then, on a random Tuesday, my mother walked into my office lobby with a girl, Rosalie, 11 years old, the daughter they had 2 years after dumping me at that shelter. Mom wasn't there to reconnect. Rosalie had a rare kidney condition and needed a living donor. They'd tested every relative. Nobody matched. But biological siblings have the highest compatibility rate. You're the only chance she has, Mom said like she was returning a library book. I told them I needed time to think. That was a mistake. Within hours, they weaponized Rosalie. Photos of her in a hospital gown. A video of her sobbing, asking, "Why won't they help me?" Messages from cousins I'd never met calling me a monster. Then they launched a GoFundMe with my full name and photo, claiming I was refusing to save a dying child. God gave you 2 kidneys for a reason. You owe this family blood. We'll go to every news station in the state. They did. A local channel ran the story without ever contacting me. The headline: Millionaire CEO won't save dying sibling. For 48 hours, strangers flooded my office with death threats. Stock dipped. 2 board members called emergency sessions. I said nothing publicly. Then I called my lawyer, Priya Osei, and Mr. Langston. We went to work. First, I released my full medical records. I'd already been tested, quietly, voluntarily, the morning after Mom's visit. I wasn't a match. My blood type made it biologically impossible. My parents already knew this. The hospital had informed them 2 weeks before Mom ever set foot in my lobby. They didn't want my kidney. They wanted my money. A transplant from the National Registry would cost $400,000 out of pocket. Their GoFundMe, built entirely on my name and a fabricated story, had already pulled in $220,000. Priya filed fraud charges that afternoon. The GoFundMe was frozen. The same news station that smeared me issued a full retraction and ran the real story. Parents who abandoned their 14-year-old at a homeless shelter, then exploited that same child's name to fundraise off a lie. Mr. Langston sat next to me at the press conference. Same steady hand he put on my shoulder the night I opened my first scholarship letter. I set up a medical trust for Rosalie through my foundation. Independent trustee. My parents can't touch a cent. Rosalie got her transplant from the donor registry 4 months later. My parents were charged with wire fraud. I begged my husband to stop making our kids breakfast. My husband Nolan makes pancakes for our boys every single morning. From scratch flour, eggs, milk, the whole thing. He's done it since our oldest was 2. The boys worship him for it. They call them daddy cakes. It's their whole morning ritual. I loved it too. For years, it was my favorite thing about our family. But 6 months ago, we moved into an older house in this neighborhood. With character. Original hardwood. Original fixtures. Original everything. And the water started tasting different. Not terrible, just metallic, like sucking on a penny. I mentioned it to Nolan. He took a sip from the tap and shrugged. Tastes fine to me. Old pipes, gives it minerals. I started buying bottled water for drinking, but Nolan kept using the tap for cooking. The pancakes, pasta, everything. You're not seriously going to cook with bottled water, he said. That's insane. I told him something felt wrong with the water. He said I'd been reading too many mommy blogs. Then our youngest, Caleb, started getting stomach aches. Not every day, but 3. Sometimes 4 mornings a week. I took him to the pediatrician. She said it was probably dietary, maybe lactose sensitivity, maybe stress from the move. Nolan agreed. Kids get stomach aches. That's what kids do. Then our older boy, Theo, started having trouble in school. His teacher emailed saying he couldn't focus. He was irritable. He'd cry over nothing, which wasn't like him at all. Nolan said it was adjusting to the new school. I said maybe we should get them both checked out more thoroughly. He said I was catastrophizing and that I needed to stop diagnosing our kids off the internet. We had a massive fight about it. I told him I didn't feel safe with the water. He told me I was turning into his mother, anxious about everything, controlling about food. That one stung, but I couldn't let it go. One morning, I turned on the kitchen tap and let it run before filling a glass. The first few seconds had this faint brownish tint. Not orange, not rust exactly, just off. I held the glass up to the window and my hands started shaking. I drove to the hardware store that afternoon and bought a water testing kit. Results came back in 48 hours. Lead, not trace amounts. Our water had lead levels 4 times above the EPA action limit. I called the county health department. They sent someone out the same week. The house had original lead service lines running from the street to our kitchen. The previous owners never disclosed it. The home inspector never tested the water. Every morning for 6 months, Nolan had been mixing those pancakes with water that was slowly poisoning our children. I got both boys tested immediately. Caleb's blood lead level was 7 micrograms per deciliter. Theo's was 11. The CDC says there is no safe level of lead in a child's blood. Anything above 3.5 triggers a public health response. The doctor told us Theo's concentration problems, his irritability, his emotional outbursts. Those weren't about adjusting to a new school. Those were neurological symptoms of lead exposure. Caleb's stomach aches weren't lactose intolerance. Lead causes abdominal cramping in young children almost identically. We're on a whole house filtration system now. The county is replacing the service line, but it takes months. Nolan hasn't made pancakes since. Not because I asked him to stop, because he can't stand in that kitchen without thinking about what he was stirring into that batter every single morning while telling me I was overreacting.
My 6-year-old son is destroying my family from the inside out, and I don't know how to stop him. It started when he was 4. He broke his baby sister's mobile because she got a new toy and he didn't. Not tossed it, dismantled it, piece by piece while she slept. My wife Loretta found the springs and wires scattered around the crib like a crime scene. We told ourselves it was a phase. He's 6 now, and last Wednesday he threw a dinner plate at the wall because I told him he couldn't have soda. The plate shattered, and a piece cut Loretta's ankle. She bled onto the floor while our son Rafferty stood there watching. Not scared, not sorry. Our daughter Blythe is 3. She doesn't talk much anymore. She used to babble nonstop, but now she just hides, flinches when Rafferty enters a room. At school, his teacher, Mrs. Calloway, pulled me aside Thursday. She had a manila folder, and inside were drawings. Rafferty had been drawing our house on fire. Not 1 or 2, 14 of them. Different angles, different colors of flame, our family standing outside, except in every drawing, one person was missing. Me. Mrs. Calloway asked if everything was okay at home. I said yes, because what else do you say when your kid draws your house burning down without you in it? That weekend, Loretta's mother visited. Rafferty was perfect, helped set the table, said please and thank you, hugged his grandmother like a greeting card commercial. The second she left, he looked at Loretta and said, I only pretend to be nice so people don't send me away. He said it flat, no emotion, like he was explaining how a toaster works. Loretta locked herself in the bathroom for an hour. I could hear her crying through the door, but I didn't go in because I didn't have anything to say that would help. Monday, the school called again. Rafferty told classmates we don't let him sleep in a bed, that he sleeps on the floor in the garage. His teacher reported it. A social worker named Miss Delaney showed up Tuesday, unannounced. She walked through every room, checked the fridge, looked at Blythe's arms for marks. Blythe cried the entire time. Rafferty sat on the couch eating goldfish crackers, watching us get inspected like we were the ones who needed fixing. Miss Delaney said the report was unfounded, but recommended family therapy. We'd already tried 3 therapists. The first said he was gifted and bored. The second said we needed firmer boundaries. The third suggested medication. And Loretta cried for 2 days because he's 6 years old and someone wanted to put him on pills. Wednesday night, I came home and the house was too quiet. Loretta was sitting at the kitchen table with her keys in her hand and 2 suitcases by the door. One was hers, one was Blythe's. I'm taking her to my sister's house, she said. Her voice was steady like she'd rehearsed it. For how long? I don't know. Maybe a week, maybe longer. You're leaving me here alone with him. I'm protecting my daughter. Our daughter. She looked at me and her eyes were empty. I can't protect her from him and love him at the same time. I don't have enough left for both. She left before Rafferty woke up. He came downstairs Thursday morning and saw the empty coat hooks where Loretta's jacket and Blythe's pink raincoat used to hang. Where'd they go? He asked. I told him they went to visit Aunt Colleen. He sat down and poured cereal. Then he looked up and said, they're not coming back, are they? I said, of course they are. He nodded slowly and went back to eating. That afternoon, I found him in Blythe's room, sitting on her tiny bed, holding her stuffed rabbit. He wasn't doing anything destructive, just holding it against his chest, staring at the wall. I stood in the doorway for 5 minutes, and he never noticed me. For the first time in months, he looked like a regular kid, small and lost and confused about something he couldn't name. My phone buzzed that night. Loretta, I think we need to talk about what this looks like long term. She meant separation. She meant choosing which child gets a stable home and which one gets whatever's left of me. I sat on the porch after he went to bed. The house was so quiet I could hear the neighbor's sprinkler 2 yards over. I kept thinking about those drawings. 14 houses on fire, every single one missing the same person. I don't know if my son hates me or if something is broken inside him that nobody knows how to fix. I just know that yesterday I had a family, and today I have a kid who scares everyone who loves him, and a wife who loves him but can't survive him.
My family hasn't said happy birthday to me in 6 years because that's the day my brother died. My brother Callum drowned at a lake house during my 21st birthday weekend. He was 19. I was on the dock blowing out candles when someone started screaming. They pulled him from the water 30 feet from where I was standing. That was 6 years ago. Every year since, my birthday is a memorial. Mom lights a candle for Callum at 6 p.m. Dad visits the grave before noon. Nobody calls me, nobody texts. I stopped expecting it after year 2. This year, I turned 27. My partner Reese asked what I wanted to do. I said nothing. Reese said we were doing something. Booked a small Italian place, just us, bought me a watch. Leather band. Something I'd mentioned once in a parking lot 3 months ago. We had pasta, 2 glasses of wine. Reese made me laugh for the first time on that date in 6 years. When we got home, I called my mom. I don't know why, part of me still checks. She picked up on the first ring. I said, hey. She said, you doing okay today? Not happy birthday. You doing okay today? Like the date was a condition I was managing. I said Reese and I went out to dinner. Silence. Then, oh, I said, Mom, it's my birthday. She said, I know what today is. I said, do you? She hung up. 20 minutes later, my dad called, said Mom was crying, that I rubbed dinner in her face, that telling her it's my birthday was cruel when she spent the whole day at the cemetery cemetery. I said I didn't ask her to spend it there. He said, your brother died. I said, I know. I was on the dock. I watched them carry him out. Quiet. I said, you haven't said happy birthday to me since I was 21. He said, this is bigger than a birthday. I said, it's been 6 of them, Dad. He told me to call Mom and apologize. I said I'd think about it. I didn't. 2 days later, my cousin Ren sent me a link. Mom posted a photo of Callum's grave. Fresh flowers, a card tucked in the dirt that said Forever 19. Caption, some people move on. Some people remember. I will always remember. 80-something likes. My aunt commented, strongest woman I know. Dad left a heart emoji. 3 cousins posted candles. Reese was reading over my shoulder. Said, did any of them post anything for your birthday? I already knew. Reese checked anyway. Nothing. Not one person. Not even late. Phone went down. Reese looked at me and said, you didn't just lose your brother that day. You lost your birthday. And nobody's noticed for 6 years. Last week, Mom left me a voicemail about planning this year's memorial. Same date, same as always. She ended it with, I really wish you'd stop making this day about yourself. My parents skipped my college graduation because I chose nursing over law school. They said I was wasting my potential. 3 years later, my mother was admitted to the ICU and demanded that only I be allowed to care for her. The fight started my junior year when I changed my major. My father is a corporate attorney. My mother is a retired paralegal. My brother Deacon went to law school and made partner at 29. The path was laid for me before I could spell my own name, but I hated it. Every pre-law class felt like swallowing sand. I spent sophomore year volunteering at a free clinic and came home feeling more alive than any contract law textbook ever made me. I switched to nursing and told my parents over winter break. My father set his fork down. You're throwing away everything we built for you. My mother said, nurses don't make partner. You'll spend your career emptying bedpans while your brother argues in front of judges. I said, I'll spend my career saving lives. She said, so dramatic. They stopped paying tuition. I took out loans and picked up shifts at a campus coffee shop. I'd study pharmacology at 4 in the morning between espresso orders. Deacon called once. Just go back to pre-law. It's not worth losing them over. I said, I shouldn't have to choose between my parents and my purpose. Graduation was a Saturday in May. I'd sent tickets 3 months early. Mom replied, well, think about it. They didn't come. I walked across the stage and Deacon's wife Marisol was in the audience, tears running down her face. She'd driven 4 hours without telling anyone. She handed me flowers and said, I'm proud of you. Someone from this family should say it. I started in the emergency department at a level 1 trauma center. Brutal hours. I saw things that changed me. I held people's hands through the worst moments of their lives and went home exhausted knowing I'd mattered. My parents and I settled into cold peace. Holiday texts. Birthday calls lasting 90 seconds. My mother would ask what I was doing. I'd say working. She'd say, still, like nursing was a phase I hadn't outgrown. 3 years after graduation, Deacon called at 2 in the morning. Mom collapsed. They're taking her to your hospital. I drove there in 12 minutes. Cardiac event. They stabilized her in the ER and moved her to the ICU. When I walked in wearing scrubs, she grabbed my wrist. I don't want anyone else. I said, I'm not assigned to this floor. She said, I don't care. I want you. Only you. My charge nurse pulled strings. For 6 days, I was at her bedside. Monitored vitals, adjusted her for, communicated with her cardiologist, explained every test in terms she understood, held her hand during a procedure that terrified her. Day 3, she was awake and alert. My father was in the corner. She watched me check her chart and said, you're good at this. I said, I know. She said, I mean really good. I said, I know, Mom. My father cleared his throat. We should have come to your graduation. He didn't apologize further. He just stated the fact like reading from a document. She was discharged after 8 days. Her cardiologist told my father the ICU nurse on her case had been exceptional and caught an irregularity in blood work that could have caused a secondary event. My father asked who. The doctor said,
Your daughter.
he called that night. Voice smaller than I'd ever heard it. The doctor said, you may have saved her life. I said, that's what nurses do, Dad. Long silence. Then, I'm sorry we made you feel like that wasn't enough. Mom sends me cardiac health articles now. She calls every Sunday for an hour, not 90 seconds. She told Deacon last month the smartest person in the family wasn't the one who made partner. Deacon texted me with a laughing emoji. She's not wrong. I still have the loans. I still work brutal hours. I'd choose this path again every single time. I picked up my daughter from my mom's house, and her long hair was gone. My mom shrugged. It was just too tangled. I buckled my daughter in without a word. By Monday morning, my mom was at my door crying. I pulled into my mom's driveway Sunday evening to pick up my 7-year-old daughter after a weekend visit. Nora ran to the car and I froze. Her hair, the thick dark hair that fell past her waist, was hacked off to her chin, uneven, choppy, like someone had taken kitchen scissors to it. What happened to your hair? Nora's eyes filled with tears. Grandma cut it. My mother appeared at the front door smiling. Before you start, it was a rat's nest. I couldn't get a brush through it. She looks much better now. I stared at her. You cut my daughter's hair. I cleaned her up. You should be thanking me. My brother Keith walked out behind her. Come on, don't make this a thing. Mom did you a favor. I knelt down and looked at Nora. She was trying not to cry. Did you ask Grandma to cut your hair? She shook her head. I said no. I said please stop. She said I was being ridiculous. I stood up. My hands were shaking. She begged you to stop and you kept cutting. She's 7. She doesn't get to make decisions about hygiene. Mom said. Hygiene? You butchered her hair because you couldn't be bothered to brush it properly. Watch your tone. You will never be alone with my daughter again. Keith stepped forward. You're being dramatic. It's hair. I buckled Nora into her car seat without answering. Drove home with my jaw locked. Nora was silent the whole way, touching the jagged ends of what was left. That night after she fell asleep, I sat at the kitchen table. I didn't cry. I planned. Monday morning, 7 a.m., I called my lawyer first. My mother cut my daughter's hair against her will during an unsupervised weekend stay. She's 7. She verbally refused and was ignored. I want to file for a protective order and revoke all visitation rights. Next, I called my accountant. Mom's health insurance was through my company. I'd been covering her as a dependent for 4 years. Remove my mother from the plan. Effective immediately. The car she drove was a lease. My name, my credit, my monthly payments. I need to terminate the lease and arrange vehicle return. Her cell phone, My plan. Cancel line 3. The monthly allowance I sent her. $2,200 direct deposit. I opened my banking app and deleted the recurring transfer. Then I called Keith. What now? He answered. I need the key to my storage unit back. Dad's furniture, his tools, his records. You have 48 hours to return it or I change the locks and file a theft report. You're out of your mind. 48 hours, Keith. By 9 a.m. I was done. Mom showed up at 10. She was crying before I opened the door. My insurance is canceled. My phone doesn't work. What is happening? Consequences. For a haircut? For ignoring a child who begged you to stop. For calling it hygiene when it was control. For smiling about it when I showed up. I'm her grandmother. You were. Now you're someone who pinned down a scared little girl and hacked off her hair while she cried. I didn't pin her down. Nora says you did. I believe my daughter. Mom wiped her face. Please, I need my insurance. I have prescriptions. You should have thought about that before you decided a 7-year-old's no didn't matter. What do you want me to do? Nothing. There's nothing to do. I've filed for a protective order. You won't see Nora unsupervised again. You can't do that. I'm her grandmother. Grandparents don't have automatic custody rights. My lawyer confirmed that this morning. Her phone buzzed. Keith on someone else's line. She answered on speaker. They're towing the car, Keith said. A truck just pulled up. I know. Mom. What do we do? He wants to punish us over nothing. Over nothing, I repeated. You took something from a child who begged you not to. Now you know exactly what that feels like. Silence. She'll forgive you eventually, Keith said. She has to. No, she doesn't. That's the whole point. No means no. Even from a 7-year-old. I closed the door.
I begged my husband to stop packing our daughter's lunch. My husband Reed has packed our daughter Ren's school lunch every morning since she started kindergarten 4 years ago. It's his thing. He cuts sandwiches into stars with a cookie cutter. He writes little notes on the napkin. He leaves a different fruit sticker on her thermos every day. Ren adores it. She calls her lunchbox the surprise box. I used to brag about it to other moms. My husband, the lunch dad. Then 8 months ago, Reed switched jobs. New company, better pay, longer hours. He started waking up at 5 to pack lunches before his commute. To save time, he began prepping everything the night before. Sandwich assembled, fruit sliced, thermos filled, all of it sitting in the fridge overnight, ready to grab at 5 a.m. That's when Ren started getting sick. Not dramatic sick, just off. Tired after lunch. Complaining her stomach felt weird on the bus ride home, pale in a way I couldn't place. I mentioned it to Reed. He barely looked up from his phone. She's 9. 9-year-olds get tired. I started asking Ren what she ate each day. Turkey sandwich, apple slices, yogurt tube, sometimes leftover pasta in the thermos, normal food, nothing weird. I took her to the pediatrician. Blood work came back clean. The doctor said some kids just have sensitive stomachs and to monitor it. Reed took that as vindication. See, she's fine. You worry too much. But she missed 11 school days in 2 months. Her teacher called me. Ren was falling asleep at her desk. Twice she'd thrown up in the bathroom after lunch. I told Reed we needed to figure this out. He said I was hovering. That every mom in our neighborhood was the same, inventing problems so they had something to manage. I asked if we could try me packing her lunch for a week, just to rule food out. He got quiet. Then he said, so now I can't even feed my own kid, right? We didn't speak for 2 days. I packed her lunch anyway. Same sandwich, same fruit, same thermos. She came home fine. No stomach ache. No pallor. I told myself it was coincidence. The next week, Reed packed again. Ren threw up on the bus Wednesday. I told him. He said it was a bug going around. That Friday morning, I woke up before him. I went to the fridge to look at the lunch he'd prepped the night before. The thermos was sitting on the middle shelf. I unscrewed the lid. Leftover chicken and rice from dinner. Looked fine. Smelled fine. I touched the side of the thermos. It was barely cool, almost room temperature. I checked the fridge thermometer we'd bought when we moved in. 49 degrees. The fridge had been slowly failing for months. The freezer still worked, so we hadn't noticed. But the main compartment was sitting 10 degrees above the safe zone. Every lunch Reed prepped the night before had been sitting in a warm fridge for 8 hours, then in an insulated lunchbox for another 4 hours before Ren ate it. 12 hours in the bacterial danger zone, 5 days a week. For 8 months. I took Ren back to the pediatrician and asked for a stool culture. She had a chronic low-grade salmonella infection, the kind that doesn't hospitalize you but quietly wrecks a child's gut for months. The doctor said the pattern matched exactly. Repeated low-dose exposure, fatigue, nausea, intermittent vomiting, missed school days, not a sensitive stomach, slow food poisoning, over and over. From the lunches her father packed with love at 5 in the morning, we replaced the fridge that weekend. Ren's on a course of antibiotics and a probiotic regimen the GI specialist laid out. Her color is already coming back. Reed hasn't packed a lunch since, not because I asked him to stop, because he can't open that new fridge without remembering what he was sliding into that star-shaped sandwich every morning, while telling me I invented problems so I'd have something to manage.
When I was 14, my mother installed cameras in every room of our house, including my bedroom and the bathroom. She said it was for safety. I believed her until I found the live stream running on a stranger's computer. When I was 14, my mother installed cameras in every room of our house, including my bedroom and the bathroom. She said it was for safety. I believed her until I found the live stream running on a stranger's computer. The cameras appeared in March. Small white domes on the ceilings, kitchen, living room, hallway, my bedroom, and one above the bathroom mirror. My mother Reva said she'd had them installed after break-ins in the neighborhood. She showed me a news article about a house robbed 3 streets over. My brother Finch and I hated them. I was 14, Finch was 11. We changed clothes in the closet with a blanket over the rod. We couldn't have private conversations. Finch started whispering everything because he couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. I asked who monitored them. She said they recorded to cloud storage she checked once a day. I barely look at them. They're just in case. I asked her to remove the bathroom one. She said no. That's where emergencies happen. I need coverage everywhere. Something felt wrong, but I couldn't say why. Mom had always been overprotective. She tracked our phones, read our texts, once drove to a friend's house unannounced to confirm I was there. The cameras felt extreme but consistent. In June, I needed her laptop for a school project. Mine had died. She was at work. I opened the browser and her tabs were still up. Email, a shopping site, and a third website I didn't recognize. I clicked it. A dashboard with 6 video feeds in a grid. Kitchen, living room, hallway, my bedroom, bathroom, and a 6th angle from the front porch. But it wasn't on a security company's website. The URL was a private server. In the bottom corner was a visitor counter. It said, currently viewing 14. 14 people were watching live feeds from our house right now. While Finch played in the living room, I clicked the user list. 14 usernames, none my mother's. Some were random characters. Some were words that made my skin crawl. I started screaming before I understood why. I grabbed Finch, pulled him into the closet, the only spot without a camera, and called our Uncle Soren. He's an IT consultant. He drove over in 20 minutes with his own laptop. Within an hour, he'd traced the server. The cameras weren't connected to any security service. They streamed to a private website that charged a monthly subscription fee. Someone had set this up to sell live footage of our home. I asked Soren who created the server. He went quiet, then showed me the account. The email address was my mother's. Riva had built a subscription live stream of her own children's daily lives and charged strangers to watch. The account had been active 7 months. It had earned just over $4,000. When we confronted her, she didn't deny it. She sat at the kitchen table and said, I needed the money. Your father left us with nothing. Do you know how much it costs to keep this house? She said it like the math justified it. Soren called the police. The investigation took 3 weeks. They identified 41 subscribers over 7 months. The site was shut down. Riva was charged with exploitation of a minor and invasion of privacy. Finch and I moved in with Soren that night and never went back. His house had no cameras. It had doors that locked from the inside. The first morning, Finch changed clothes in the middle of his bedroom with the curtains open, looked at me and said, nobody's watching. He said it like he was testing whether it was true. Riva pleaded guilty to reduced charges and got probation with counseling. She's not allowed unsupervised contact with us. She sends letters that always say the same thing. I was trying to keep us afloat. You'll understand when you're older. I'm 19 now. I understand exactly what she did. I just don't forgive it. Finch is 16. He still changes in closets. Some habits don't unlearn just because the cameras come down.
I saved for 3 years to legally erase the tattoo my mother forced onto my face when I was 6 years old because she wanted all her children to be impossible to forget. The tattoo was a small blue star, right under my left eye, done in a back alley studio by a man who didn't ask a single question when my mother walked in holding a crying first grader. And I wasn't even the worst off. My older sister Brindle has a crescent moon on her right cheek. My brother Alder has a tiny black sun on his forehead. My half-brother Wix has a lightning bolt down the side of his jaw. And my baby half-sister Plum, who's only 7 now, has a small heart inked right below her bottom lip. Mom's defense, which she has delivered to us maybe 10,000 times, is that she wanted her children to be walking art. She said faces are the first thing people see, and ordinary faces get ignored, and her kids would never have to fight to be remembered. She was right about that last part, just not in the way she imagined. Every school year started the same way. New teacher scans the room, eyes stop on my face, linger 2 seconds too long, then snap away like she'd been caught staring at something she shouldn't. By 2nd grade, I could feel it happening before I even looked up. Kids were worse. A boy in 3rd grade told me I looked like a criminal from a cartoon. A girl in 5th grade asked if my mom was in a cult. I stopped answering and started eating lunch in the bathroom stall at the end of the hallway. My sister Brindle had it the hardest. She was 14 when a group of girls cornered her in the locker room and tried to scrub her cheek off with a wet paper towel, laughing the whole time. She came home with a raw red patch where the moon still sat, untouched. She started wearing her hair over that side of her face every single day. She hasn't tied it back in public since she was 15. My brother Alder dropped out of 2 different high schools. At the second one, a teacher pulled him aside and asked if he was in a gang. He was 16, quiet, got straight B's, and had never been in a fight in his life. He got his removed the month he turned 18. 11 laser sessions. His forehead is still slightly discolored where the sun used to be. Mom didn't speak to him for almost a year. She told the rest of us he had scrubbed off his soul, and that she couldn't look at his blank forehead without grieving. The moment that broke me was my college graduation ceremony. I'd worked 2 jobs through 4 years of school, walked across the stage, got my diploma, smiled for the photographer they hired to take your official shot. When the proofs came back, every single picture had the star circled in red pen by the photo company with a note saying they could edit out the birthmark for an extra $40. It wasn't a birthmark. It was ink my mother paid a stranger to put on my face. I sat on my dorm bed holding that proof sheet and cried for maybe an hour. Then I called Alder. He walked me through everything, every consultation, every numbing cream, every session cost. Laser removal in my state ran around $2,800 for a face tattoo that size, spread over 10 to 12 sessions. I was working retail part-time and finishing a teaching certificate. $2,800 was a fantasy number, but I started setting aside every tip, every birthday check, every extra shift. I stopped buying coffee. I sold my old laptop and used the library computers for a full semester. I ate the same lentil soup for dinner 4 nights a week for almost 2 years. My half-brother Wix is 12 now. He came to me last Christmas and asked very quietly if it hurt to get it removed. I told him the truth. He nodded like he was filing it away for later. Plum is 7. She doesn't understand yet why strangers in grocery stores stare at her mouth when she talks, but I remember exactly what that feels like, and I know what's coming for her. Last month, I sat in a dermatologist's chair for my final session. The technician lowered the laser, asked me to confirm I wanted the last trace gone, and I said yes before she finished the sentence. When I looked in the mirror in the parking lot afterward, the skin under my left eye was pink and swollen, but the star was gone, completely gone. For the first time since I was 6 years old, my face was just my face. I sat in the driver's seat and stared at myself in the rearview mirror for a long time.
My mother-in-law hid my wheelchair at my own wedding reception because she wanted to prove I was faking my disability. She didn't expect my service dog to find it before she could finish her toast. I've been paraplegic since 19. A drunk driver hit me while I was biking across campus. Woke up 3 days later unable to feel anything below my waist. 8 years ago. I've built a life since. Degree, career, an apartment with ramps I installed myself. And Boone, my service dog, a 70-pound golden retriever who opens doors, picks up objects, and has better manners than most people. When I met Quentin, he never treated the chair like it defined me. He learned to collapse and load it in 10 seconds. He memorized which restaurants had accessible seating. He proposed at the top of a trail he'd scouted for wheelchair access 3 weeks in advance. His mother Jolene is a different story. From day one, she looked at me like a problem her son chose on purpose. The comments leaked out constantly. Such a shame about your legs. I'm sure Quentin could find someone who keeps up. And her favorite at every holiday. You don't look paralyzed. She was convinced I was exaggerating. She'd watch me transfer from chair to couch and say, see, you can move your legs. She once told Quentin's aunt I used the wheelchair for attention. Quentin shut it down every time, but she never stopped. Our wedding was October. The ceremony was beautiful. Quentin cried during vows. Boone sat beside me in a bow tie. Perfect until the reception. During cocktail hour, I rolled to the restroom. When I came out, my chair wasn't where I'd left it. Boone was sitting next to the empty space looking confused. Someone had moved my wheelchair while I was in the bathroom. I transferred to a bench and asked staff to find it. 15 minutes. Nothing. I was stuck on a bench at my own wedding, unable to get back to the party. Quentin found me 20 minutes later. His face went from concerned to furious. Where's your chair? I said. Someone moved it. He looked at Boone sniffing the air near the service corridor. Boone, find it. Boone took off. We followed, Quentin carrying me because the hallway had no benches. Boone led us through the service corridor, past the kitchen, stopped at a storage closet, pawed the door. Quentin opened it. My wheelchair, folded behind stacked chairs. We went back. Jolene was at the head table with champagne, looking comfortable. Quentin asked his brother where she'd been during cocktail hour. Bathroom wing. Said she needed to fix her makeup. The same wing as the storage closet. Quentin sat next to her. I found the wheelchair in the closet. Jolene didn't flinch. I don't know what you're talking about, he said. The closet you pass walking back from the bathroom. She put down her glass. Maybe she forgot where she left it. Disabled people can be forgetful. The table went silent. I rolled up. Jolene, I'm paralyzed, not forgetful. I was stranded at my own wedding for 20 minutes because someone hid the only way I move independently. She started her rehearsed speech. If you were really paralyzed, you wouldn't transfer yourself. You wouldn't went and stood. Mom, stop. Quietest I'd ever heard him. You hid her wheelchair at our wedding to prove a point that doesn't exist. I need you to leave. She looked for allies. Found none. His father wouldn't meet her eyes. His brother stared at the tablecloth. She picked up her purse and walked out. We danced our first dance 10 minutes later. He held me on his lap in my chair while our song played. Boone sat at the edge of the floor with his bow tie crooked, watching like he'd arranged the whole thing. 14 months married now. Jolene apologized once in writing, a condition of attending family events. Quentin reads her letters before I see them. He says they're getting sincere. I'm not convinced yet, but I'm willing to wait. Bookweed still checks outside every bathroom door before I go in. He's never forgotten. Neither have I.
I told my sister that keeping her daughter helpless isn't love. My sister Gail doesn't let her daughter do anything on her own. Not because Ren can't, because Gail won't let her try. Ren is 13 and can't tie her shoes. Has never poured her own drink, doesn't know her home address. They call it sheltering. I call it something else. I found out how deep it went when Ren stayed with me for 5 days. Gail and her husband Keith had a family emergency out of state. I was the only option on short notice. Gail left me 3 pages of handwritten instructions. What Ren eats, when she sleeps, what she's not allowed to do. The not allowed list was longer than everything else combined. I should have read it more carefully. First night, Ren asked me to cut her chicken. She's 13. I handed her a knife and fork and told her to try. She held the knife backwards, not as a joke. She'd never used one. Her mom cuts all her food because knives are dangerous. Next morning, I told her to get dressed. 20 minutes later, she came out wearing her shirt inside out with the buttons misaligned. She asked me to fix it. I asked if she'd ever buttoned her own shirt. She said her mom lays out her clothes and helps her get dressed every morning. She's 13. I took her to the pharmacy to pick up a prescription. I told her to wait by the entrance while I went to the counter. When I came back, a stranger was kneeling in front of Ren, asking if she was lost. Ren was crying because she didn't know my phone number, her own address, or her last name spelling. She couldn't give a single piece of information to help anyone find me. I called Gail that night and asked if Ren had ever memorized her address or a phone number. Gail said she didn't need to because she's never alone. I said she was alone for 10 minutes today and couldn't identify herself. Gail said I was being dramatic. Day 3, Ren needed to use the bathroom at the library. She came out upset because she couldn't work the faucet. It was motion sensor. She'd never encountered one. She waved her hands under it for 2 minutes before someone helped her. Then she couldn't figure out the paper towel dispenser. That wasn't the worst part. Day 4, I took her to the park. She wanted to swing, but the only open one was next to another kid. I told her to go ask if they could take turns. She completely froze. She whispered that she didn't know how to talk to other kids. She'd never had a play date without her mom sitting next to her directing the conversation. Every social interaction she'd ever had was supervised and scripted by Gail. She sat on a bench and watched the other kids play for 40 minutes. That night, I called Gail and didn't hold back. I said, Ren can't feed herself, dress herself, talk to another child, or tell a stranger her own address. I said, this isn't protection. It's control, and it's going to break her. Gail cried, said I didn't understand how terrifying the world is, that she lost a friend's child to an accident years ago and swore she'd never let anything happen to Ren. I said she was so focused on keeping Ren safe from the world that she forgot to teach her how to exist in it. She called me cruel and hung up. She picked Ren up the next morning without looking at me. 2 months of silence. Then Gail called at 11 p.m. Ren had started 8th grade at a real school because the district required enrollment. Second week in, a group of older girls told Ren they were her best friends. They convinced her to hand over her lunch money every day for 2 weeks straight. Ren did it happily because she thought that's what friendship costs. She had no frame of reference for a normal interaction. A teacher finally noticed Ren sitting alone at lunch with nothing to eat. When they asked what happened, Ren couldn't explain it. She didn't have the language for being taken advantage of because nobody had ever taught her what healthy relationships look like. Gail was sobbing on the phone. She said I was right about everything. She asked me what she should do. I said start by letting Ren fail at small things so she doesn't get destroyed by big ones. Ren comes over on weekends now. I let her order food at the counter herself. She walks to the corner store alone. She's memorized my number, her mom's number, and her full home address. Last Saturday, she got into an argument with a kid at the park over whose turn it was on the swings. She held her ground and they worked it out themselves. Gail would have called that a problem. I called it the whole point.
When my son forgot to close his laptop, I saw his last search was how to make someone pass out instantly. I scrolled through the rest of his history. Best places to hide a body. How long before someone notices a missing person. I felt my whole body go cold. My 13-year-old was planning to hurt someone. He was supposed to be at school. I called the front office and they told me he never showed up that morning. I tried his cell phone, straight to voicemail. Then I called his best friend Gavin's mom, Mrs. Halsey, and she said Gavin wasn't at school either. Both of them just vanished. I texted my son 6 times. Nothing. Tried Gavin's phone. Nothing. Then I started thinking about the last week. He'd been acting different, coming home late, locking his bedroom door the second he walked in, whispering on phone calls and hanging up the moment I entered the room. I told myself it was just teenage stuff. Now, every single one of those moments looked completely different. I drove straight to Gavin's house because that was always where my son ended up when he wasn't where he was supposed to be. Both their bikes were leaning against the garage. I knocked. No answer. Knocked harder. Still nothing. Then I pressed my ear to the front door and I heard my son's voice say, "Hold her still. She keeps moving." I almost fell off the porch. I backed away from the door with my hands shaking so bad I could barely unlock my phone. I called 911 and I could hardly get the words out. I told them everything. The searches, the missing school, what I just heard through the door. The dispatcher told me not to go inside and not to knock again. Units were on the way. 3 squad cars showed up in under 8 minutes. I was pacing the sidewalk telling the first officer everything I knew while 2 more went around the side of the house. One of them came back on the radio. "Basement windows are covered from the inside. Looks like plastic sheeting taped over the glass." The officer standing next to me put his hand on my shoulder, and that one gesture made it real. He believed this was what I thought it was. I couldn't breathe. Blacked out windows. My son skipping school with a girl inside a locked house. Search history about hiding bodies and making people pass out. Everything pointed to something I couldn't even say out loud. 2 officers approached the front door. It was unlocked. They pushed it open slowly, and one of them yelled, "Police department, everyone on the ground now." The house was completely dark inside. Every curtain in every room was pulled shut, and there was a streak of something dark red smeared across the hardwood floor, trailing down the hallway toward a closed door at the far end. One of the officers looked back at me. I could see it in his eyes. He was preparing himself for what was on the other side. He pushed the door open, and the first thing that hit us was sound. This deep, heavy, pounding music. Some kind of horror movie soundtrack rattling the walls. The red trail didn't stop at the door. It continued down the basement stairs, smeared across every other step. I was gripping the railing so hard, my knuckles were turning white. We went down, step by step, and the music got louder with each one. Then I heard a girl's voice say, "Is that enough blood?" And my son answered, "No, put more on your neck and let it drip down. It needs to look real." The lead officer took the last 3 stairs in one stride and swung around the corner with his gun up. "Freeze. Hands where I can see them." Now, I was right behind him. I pushed past his shoulder because I needed to see what my son had done. And I saw my son standing behind a camera on a tripod. Gavin was holding a boom mic they'd built out of a broom handle with a kitchen sponge duct taped to the top. And Gavin's 12-year-old sister Brooke was lying on the floor covered head to toe in what I now realized was ketchup mixed with corn syrup. The walls were lined with plastic sheeting they'd taped up everywhere to keep the fake blood off the carpet. A ring light was set up in the corner next to a laptop playing the horror soundtrack on YouTube. They were shooting a short horror film for their school's annual film festival. My son's face went completely white the second he saw the officers. Brooke burst into tears. Gavin dropped the broom handle and threw his hands straight up. The lead officer just stared at the ceiling for a solid 10 seconds without blinking, holstered his weapon, and walked back upstairs without saying a single word. But my son still got suspended for 3 weeks. He skipped school, convinced 2 other minors to skip with him, brought a 12-year-old girl into a house with blacked out windows without her parents knowing, and their little student film project triggered a multi-unit police response that cost the city thousands of dollars. And I still grounded him for 6 months on top of it because he searched all of that on the family laptop and didn't even think to use incognito mode.
My boyfriend's mom tried to name my baby, so I named the parrot after her instead. When I told my boyfriend's family I was pregnant, his mom Brenda didn't say congratulations. She said, "Finally, a Brenda Jr." I thought she was joking. She was not joking. She pulled out a folder, an actual folder, laminated tabs, color-coded, labeled Baby Brenda. The plan. Inside, name options. All Brenda. Brenda May, Brenda Louise, Brenda Kathleen. There was a pros and cons list. The pro for every name was honors the family. The con column was blank. I looked at Cole, my boyfriend. He shrugged. "She's been working on it since we started dating." That was 3 months in. We'd been together 2 years. I tried to set boundaries. "Brenda, we appreciate the enthusiasm, but we haven't picked a name yet." She smiled, patted my hand, and said, "I know, sweetie. That's why I did it for you." Then she handed me a custom license plate frame for the baby's car seat. That said, "Princess Brenda on board." Then she started telling people. Not asking, telling. I'm at her church potluck, and a woman I've never met hugs me and says, "Brenda must be so proud. A grandbaby with her name." I looked at Cole. He's eating potato salad like nothing happened. I whispered, "Did your mother send out a press release?" He shrugged again. I was starting to think his shoulders were broken. Then the nursery happened. We came home from a weekend trip, and Brenda had let herself in with the spare key we gave her for emergencies, and painted the entire nursery lavender. Sweet, right? Except she also stenciled Brenda in gold letters above the crib, floor to ceiling, like a brand logo. Our apartment looked like a Brenda flagship store. I called Cole. "Your mother graffitied our nursery." He goes, "She probably just got carried away." Carried away? She brought a ladder. I tried one more time, sat down with Brenda, face to face. "We've decided to name her Nadia, after my late grandmother." Brenda blinks, then says, "That's a beautiful middle name." I said, "It's the first name." She said, "We'll see. We'll see. This isn't a negotiation. The baby is inside me. I have final edit." The baby shower was the last straw. Brenda organized it. Fine. But every single decoration said, "Welcome baby Brenda." The cake, the banner, the napkins. the little chocolate favors, all of it. She even made a speech. I've waited my whole life for this legacy. Little Brenda is going to carry our name forward. People clapped. Someone cried. I was standing there holding a plate of cake with my baby's kidnapped name on it. Cole leans over and whispers, just let her have the moment. I whispered back. She's having all of them. 2 weeks later, Cole comes home with a rescue bird, a big, loud, beautiful African gray parrot. The shelter said she needs a name. I looked at that bird. She looked at me. One eye, then the other, tilted her head like she already understood the assignment. I said, Brenda. Cole laughed. The bird screamed. Perfect. Parrots learn fast. Within a week, the bird could say her own name, loudly, repeatedly. Brenda, Brenda, Brenda. She'd say it when she wanted food. She'd say it when she was bored. She'd say it at 6 a.m. for absolutely no reason. Cole recorded it and posted it. It got 40,000 views. Then we visited the real Brenda. The parrot came with us, because of course she did. We walk in, bird on my shoulder, and immediately, Brenda, Brenda. The bird starts flapping, knocks over a candle, lands on the dining table, steals a cracker. Brenda, no, I yell. Brenda, come back. Brenda the human is watching her name get screamed at a bird stealing food off her table. Cole is dying. His dad is filming. The parrot looks directly at Brenda and says, clear as day. Brenda, stop. I didn't teach her that. She freelanced. Brenda finally snaps. You named that thing after me? And I smiled. Same energy she gave me for 9 months. And said, I just thought Brenda was such a timeless name. It deserved to be heard. Over and over and over. She hasn't mentioned baby names since. But that parrot says her name about 200 times a day. And honestly, she says it with more authority than the original ever did.
My aunt stood up at my sister's wedding and told the groom her real name wasn't the one on the invitation. My aunt stood up at my sister's wedding and told the groom her real name wasn't the one on the invitation. My sister Nora is the careful one. The kind of careful where she labels her Tupperware and keeps receipts in a folder by month. She dated Brandon for 4 years before she said yes. 4 years of meeting his parents, vacations, shared dentist, the whole slow build. Brandon is a good man, quiet, steady, the kind of guy who fixes things before you notice they're broken. He proposed in the kitchen on a Tuesday because he said weekends felt like pressure. She cried for an hour. She said yes in the first 10 seconds and cried about it for the other 59 minutes. The wedding was small, 80 people. A barn venue 2 hours out of town, string lights, a cellist. Nora wanted everything soft. No spotlight, no big entrance. She walked down the aisle to a song their grandfather used to hum. My dad nearly lost it. So did I. My Aunt Coralie is my mom's older sister. Coralie is who she is, and who she is complicated. She's elegant, expensive, and sharp in a way that cuts both directions. She's been married 3 times. She corrects waiters. She brings her own wine to restaurants. She loves Nora more than anything in this world, which is the only reason what happened next makes sense. The ceremony went perfectly. Vows, rings, kiss, applause. We moved to the reception. Toasts started after dinner. My dad spoke. Brandon's father spoke. Then Coralie stood up, and everyone smiled because Coralie always has something to say, and usually it's worth hearing. She lifted her glass. She looked at Brandon, and she said, before I toast you, I need to tell you something nobody in this family has ever said out loud. The room got quiet the way rooms do when people sense weather changing. She said, my name isn't Coralie, it's Margaret. I changed it when I was 19. And the reason matters tonight. Nora's fork stopped halfway to her mouth. My mom went pale. I looked at my dad, and he looked like a man watching a car slide on ice. Coralie kept going. When I was 18, I was engaged to a man my parents picked. Good family. Bad man. The night before the wedding, I packed a bag, took a bus to the city, and I never came back as Margaret. I became Coralie because Margaret was the girl who would have said yes to a life that scared her. She turned to Nora. I have watched you with Brandon for 4 years. I have waited for the moment I'd see in your face what I saw in mine the night I left. I never saw it, not once. Then she looked at Brandon. I'm telling you my real name because tonight, you're joining a family. And a family shouldn't have a secret that big sitting at the head table. My sister knows. My mother knew. Nobody else. And I needed Nora to hear it on the one day she'd understand why I ran, and why I'm so glad she didn't have to. Nobody moved. 80 people, not one fork. Then Coralie raised her glass higher. To Brandon, for being the man my niece never had to run from. And to Margaret, the girl I left on a bus. She would have loved this barn. Nora was crying. Brandon was crying. My mom walked over to her sister and held her hand like they were kids again. The cellist, bless her, started playing something soft without being asked. Brandon stood up. He didn't make a speech. He walked over to Coralie, hugged her, and said one sentence loud enough for the table to hear. I'll spend my life making sure she never needs another name. That's when the room broke. Good crying. The kind weddings are supposed to have, but rarely do. My grandmother, 86 years old, sitting at table 1, finally spoke. She said, I've waited 67 years to hear my daughter say that out loud. She'd known the whole time. She just never pushed. Coralie sat down. Nora walked over to her, knelt beside her chair in a wedding dress that cost more than my rent, and whispered something nobody heard. Coralie nodded. The DJ started the first dance. Nora and Brandon swayed under the string lights. Coralie watched them with the face of a woman who finally put something heavy down after carrying it for 40 years. In the car on the way home, my mom said, she's been Coralie longer than she was ever Margaret. My dad said, she's been both the whole time. Tonight she just let us see it. Nora texted the family group chat at 2 a.m. from her honeymoon suite. 3 words. Tell Aunt Margaret I love her. My daughter got called to the principal's office for refusing to write a compliment about a classmate. When I saw the composition notebook in her backpack, I bought her ice cream on the way home. The school called at 11:15. My daughter had been sent to the office for refusing to participate in a class activity. When I got there, she was sitting in a plastic chair with her arms crossed and a look on her face I'd never seen before. Not defiance, conviction. My daughter Willa is 10. She's the kind of kid who writes thank you cards to bus drivers and once cried because a caterpillar fell off a leaf. So when the guidance counselor, Mr. Brandt, told me she'd disrupted a classroom exercise and refused direct instruction from her teacher, I knew there was more to it. The teacher, Ms. Ms. Adkins was already in the office. She looked frustrated. We were doing a team-building exercise. Each student writes something nice about every other student on an index card. Willa refused to write a card for one student. When I told her she had to include everyone, she said no and sat down. I looked at Willa. Which student? She said. Fletcher. Mr. Brandt jumped in. Fletcher is a well-liked student. Class president, honor roll, involved in everything. We're not sure why Willa singled him out. I asked Willa why she wouldn't write the card. She was quiet for a moment. Then she reached into her backpack and pulled out a composition notebook. She opened it to a page with a date written at the top. October 9th, she read. Fletcher told Meadow her drawing looked like a kindergartner made it. She erased the whole thing and didn't draw for the rest of the week. She turned the page. October 22nd. Fletcher took Ruthie's lunch and said she didn't need it because she was already fat enough. Ruthie ate in the bathroom for 3 days. Another page. November 3rd. Fletcher told Darius his dad left because Darius was annoying. Darius cried in the coat closet during recess. She had 14 entries. 14 dated specific incidents spanning 2 months. She'd been documenting everything Fletcher said to other kids in a composition notebook with the kind of detail a detective would admire. Names, dates, quotes, and what happened afterward. The room was completely silent. Ms. Adkins looked like she'd swallowed something sharp. Mr. Brandt was reading the notebook with his mouth slightly open. Willa closed it and put it back in her bag. I'm not writing something nice about someone who makes everyone around him feel terrible. You can put whatever you want on my report card. Ms. Adkins spoke first. I had no idea Fletcher was saying these things. I looked at her. Did you ever ask? She didn't answer. Mr. Brandt said, Willa, why didn't you tell a teacher about this? She looked at him like the answer was obvious. I told Ms. Adkins in October that Fletcher was being mean to Meadow. She said I should focus on my own work and let her handle classroom behavior. Nothing happened. So I started writing it down. I turned to Ms. Adkins. Is that true? Did she report this to you? Ms. Adkins shifted in her seat. She may have mentioned something. I don't recall the specifics. My 10-year-old kept a log with dates and quotes because the adult in the room didn't listen the first time. And now she's the one sitting in this office. Mr. Brandt closed the notebook and set it on his desk carefully. I think we need to have a conversation with Fletcher and his parents and review some of these incidents. Fletcher's mother arrived 20 minutes later. She was already on the defensive before she sat down. My son is class president. He doesn't bully anyone. Mr. Brandt showed her the notebook. She read 3 entries and stopped. She didn't say anything else for the rest of the meeting. Willa was given no punishment. Fletcher was pulled from the team-building exercise and referred to the counselor. 3 of the kids Willa had documented, Meadow, Ruthie, and Darius, were each spoken to privately. 2 of their parents called me that week. Ruthie's mom left a voicemail that I've saved. She said, nobody knew about the lunch thing. Nobody except your daughter. In the car, Willa buckled her seatbelt and stared out the window. Am I in trouble? She asked quietly. I reached back between the seats and held up the composition notebook she'd given me. I'm buying you a new one of these. And ice cream. And whatever else you want for dinner. She almost smiled. Can I get a binder instead? I'm running out of pages. My mother married a man younger than me, so I brought his mother as my date to the wedding. My mother is 54. Her new husband, Griffin, is 23. I'm 27. When she introduced him to me over dinner at a restaurant she couldn't afford 6 months ago, he looked at me, paused, and said, wait, are you older than me? I said, by 4 years. He laughed nervously. My mother reached across the table and squeezed his hand like she was anchoring him. Age is just a number, she said. I thought, that number is 31. It started fast and got worse. Within 3 months, Griffin had moved into our family home, the house I grew up in, and started redecorating. My father's study became a gaming room. The kitchen my dad built with his own hands got updated with whatever Griffin saw on TikTok that week. My mother funded everything. She cashed in her retirement account, the one my late father had spent 30 years building to finance Griffin's lifestyle. He didn't work. He created content. His Instagram had 900 followers, most of which were bots. He posted shirtless photos by my mother's pool and captioned them with quotes about hustle. When the engagement happened, I called my mother directly. Mom, I need you to think about this. She said, I've never been happier. I said, you've known him 5 months. She said, your father and I dated for 3 years, and he still died. Time doesn't guarantee anything. She had a point, technically. It still felt wrong. The wedding was planned for June. My mother spared no expense. She booked a vineyard venue, hired a live band, ordered a 4-tier cake. When my invitation arrived, I had an idea. I found Griffin's mother on Facebook. Her name was Dottie. She was 57, 3 years older than my mom. She lived 2 towns over. I messaged her. Hi, Mrs. Landry. This might sound unusual, but my mother is marrying your son, and I'd love to take you to the wedding as my date. Her reply came in 4 minutes. I've been waiting for someone in that family to have a sense of humor. Pick me up at 5. Dottie was incredible. We met for coffee to plan our entrance. She ordered black coffee and said, so your mother is marrying my baby boy, and we're going to make them both extremely uncomfortable. I'm in. I asked her if she was okay with Griffin marrying someone her age. She stirred her coffee slowly. I love my son, but Griffin has been doing this since he graduated. Older women with money. He finds them, charms them, moves in, and lives off them until the money runs out. Your mother is the 4th. She paused. I tried to warn her. She blocked my number. Wedding day. I picked Dottie up at 5. She wore a navy blue dress with pearls and looked absolutely elegant. I wore a suit and opened every door for her. We arrived at the vineyard arm in arm. The moment we walked in, whispers started immediately. My mother was standing near the gift table in her wedding dress when she saw us. Her face went through 3 phases: confusion, recognition, fury. What is she doing here? She hissed, pulling me aside. I said, she's my date. My mother stared at Dottie, who was already charming my uncle at the cocktail table. You brought his mother? I said, you brought my stepfather. We both brought someone unexpected. Griffin spotted Dottie from across the lawn and froze mid-laugh. He walked over fast. Mom, what are you doing here? Dottie adjusted her pearls. Your fiance's daughter invited me. Beautiful venue. Who's paying for all this? Griffin's face went red. That's not funny, Dottie said. It wasn't meant to be. During the reception, Dottie and I sat at a table near the front. I made sure to mirror everything my mother did with Griffin. When she fed him cake, I offered Dottie a bite of mine. When she danced with him, I danced with Dottie. When my mother kissed Griffin's cheek for photos, I kissed Dottie's hand. The photographer didn't know where to point the camera, but the real moment came during the toasts. My mother's best friend gave a speech about love being timeless. When she finished, I stood up. I'd also like to say something. The room went quiet. My mother gripped Griffin's arm. Mom, I love you. I want you to be happy, but I also want you to be safe. I looked at Griffin. Dottie told me this is the 4th time you've done this. 4 4 women, same pattern. The room was dead silent. Griffin's jaw clenched. Dottie stood up beside me. She spoke directly to my mother. I'm sorry to say this at your wedding, but my son has a history of this, and I couldn't live with myself if I didn't tell you. I have bank statements from the last 3 women if you want to see them. My mother looked at Griffin. He looked at the floor. She looked at Dottie. She looked at me. Then she looked at the 4-tier cake my father's retirement had paid for, and something behind her eyes shifted. They annulled the marriage 6 weeks later. My mother hasn't spoken to me since, but last week she called my voicemail and left a message that was just 12 seconds of silence followed by, "Thank you."
I begged to see my baby, and the nurse told me I wasn't fit to be a mother. My water broke 3 weeks early in the middle of a grocery store. I was standing in the cereal aisle holding a box of Cheerios when I felt it and just froze. A stranger called 911 for me because I couldn't move my hands. My husband was supposed to be with me for everything. We had a plan. He'd been carrying a printed birth checklist in his wallet for 2 months and made me practice breathing exercises every night after dinner until I told him he was more anxious about this birth than I was. But he was 200 miles away at a conference. "I'm getting in the car right now," he said when I called him. 3 hours. Maybe less. Don't let them start without me. I arrived at the hospital alone, still in my grocery clothes, hair a mess, no hospital bag. The woman at the front desk looked me up and down. "Where's your partner?" "He's on his way." She raised an eyebrow. "Sure he is." I didn't understand what she meant until later. They put me in a room at the end of the hall, the farthest one from the nurse's station. A nurse came in, looked at my chart, then looked at me. "How old are you?" 26. She made a sound, not quite a laugh. "And the father is coming?" "My husband." "Yes." She wrote something on the chart I couldn't see and left without explaining a single thing. The contractions were getting worse. I pressed the call button. Nothing. I pressed it again 10 minutes later. Nothing. I finally got up and walked to the hallway, 4-pole dragging behind me, doubled over in pain. "Excuse me," I said to a nurse at the station. "I've been pressing the call button and nobody's come." She didn't look up. "We're understaffed. You'll have to wait like everyone else." A second nurse leaned over and whispered something to her. I caught one word: alone. I went back to my room and cried. My husband texted me, "Stuck in traffic outside the city." "I'm losing my mind. How are they treating you?" I typed fine and deleted it. Typed not great and deleted that too. Sent a heart emoji instead. The doctor came in an hour later. He checked the monitors for maybe 30 seconds. "You're progressing fast. We'll likely need to intervene." "What does that mean?" I asked. "It means we know what we're doing. Try to relax." He started talking to the nurse like I wasn't in the room. I heard him say, "Probably won't have anyone to sign the discharge papers either." I gripped the bed rail. "My husband is coming." He glanced at me. The next 2 hours were the worst of my life. When I screamed for help, a nurse told me to stop being so dramatic. When it was finally time, there were 3 people in the room and not one of them spoke to me like a person. "Push harder," the doctor said. "I don't have all night." Then I heard her. My daughter. The tiniest, most perfect cry I'd ever heard in my life. I was shaking, sobbing, arms reaching out. "Please," I whispered. "Let me hold her." The nurse holding my daughter looked at the doctor. He shrugged. She turned to me and said words I will never forget. "Maybe we should make sure you're actually fit to be a mother first." The door opened. My husband stood there in his suit, tie loosened, eyes red from driving. Then he saw my face. He looked at the nurse holding our daughter away from me. He looked at the doctor. "Why isn't my wife holding our baby?" The doctor stepped forward. "Sir, we have protocols." "Protocols?" My husband reached into his jacket. "My name is Callan Webb, senior partner at Ashford and Webb. We are the legal counsel retained by this entire hospital network." He let that sit. "Every malpractice claim, every patient complaint, every staff review for the last 9 years has crossed my desk." The room didn't just go quiet. It stopped breathing. "Hand my wife her daughter. Now." The nurse placed our baby in my arms so fast she nearly tripped over her own feet. "I will be filing formal complaints with the medical board by Monday, and I won't be filing them as a husband. I'll be filing them as your attorney." I looked down at my daughter's face, then up at my husband. "Get them out of here," I said. He did. My mother told me my kids weren't invited to Thanksgiving because they'd overwhelm her house. My brother's 4 kids were already confirmed. I didn't fight it, I just hosted my own. The call came on a Tuesday evening, 11 days before Thanksgiving. My mother's voice had that careful tone she uses when she's about to say something she knows is wrong but has already decided to say anyway. "Honey, about Thanksgiving, your brother's family is coming and the house is going to be full. I just don't think we have the space for your kids this year. They're so energetic, and the house isn't baby-proofed, and I don't want anyone getting hurt." My kids, Willa and Amos, are 4 and 6. They're active, sure. They're children, but the real issue wasn't space. My brother Barrett's 4 kids, ages 7 through 13, had destroyed my mother's guest bathroom at Easter, cracked the toilet seat, flooded the floor, drew on the wallpaper with permanent marker. Nobody said a word about it. Barrett laughed it off and my mother cleaned it up herself. "So Barrett's kids are coming," I said. "All 4 of them." She paused. "Well, yes, but they're older. They're calmer. His 13-year-old broke her towel rack last time he was there by doing pull-ups on it. But sure, calmer." "Understood," I said. My husband, Nolan, was standing in the kitchen listening. When I hung up, he didn't ask what happened. He could tell from my face. He just said, "Then we do Thanksgiving here." And we did. Nolan and I spent the next 10 days planning a Thanksgiving that would have made a food magazine jealous. He built a kid's table from scratch in the garage, painted it orange and yellow, and Willa helped him glue fake leaves to the legs. Amos made place cards out of construction paper for every seat. Thanksgiving morning, our house smelled like heaven. I made my grandmother's cornbread stuffing, sweet potato casserole, cranberry sauce from scratch. Nolan made pumpkin pie. The kids set the table themselves. Willa folded the napkins into triangles because she'd seen it on a cooking show and wanted everything to be like a restaurant. We ate. We laughed.
Amos fell asleep on the couch with gravy on his chin and stuffing in his hair. Willa insisted on helping with dishes and broke one glass and immediately burst into tears, apologizing. I told her, "It's just a glass, you were helping, and that's what matters." She smiled so big I had to look away so she wouldn't see me get emotional. It was the quietest, happiest Thanksgiving I'd had in years. No tension. Around 4 o'clock, my phone started buzzing. "Mom first. Are you coming for dessert at least?" I didn't answer. Then Barrett. "Sis, Mom's upset. She thought you'd show up anyway. Don't be petty." I muted the group chat. By 7 that evening, Barrett was at my door. He walked in, saw the leftover turkey, the homemade pies, the kids' table with its painted legs and construction paper place cards, and his face changed. "You did all this?" Nolan said. "We did." He stood there for a second, then said, "Mom asked me to convince you to come to Christmas." I said, "Mom excluded my children from a family holiday. You were there for that conversation. You said nothing." "She wasn't trying to exclude them. She was just worried about," I said. "Barrett, your son broke her towel rack doing pull-ups." And she laughed. My 4-year-old runs around her living room and she calls it overwhelming. Don't explain this to me like I'm the one who doesn't get it. He didn't have an answer. The group chat exploded over the next week. My Aunt Prue sent a message saying I was tearing the family apart. My uncle called me dramatic. Not one of them asked why my children were excluded. Then my father called. He said, "Your mother made a mistake. She knows it. She's too proud to say it properly." I said, "Dad, being too proud to apologize for excluding your grandchildren is a bigger problem than the exclusion itself." He was quiet for a long time. Then he said, "You're right. I should have said something. I didn't. That's on me." That meant more than any apology from my mother would have, because he didn't make excuses. He just owned it. My husband's sister is destroying our marriage and he refuses to see it. My husband's sister is destroying our marriage and he refuses to see it. 2 years ago, I married Owen, and his sister Whitney immediately made it clear she wasn't going anywhere. I tried being understanding. She'd lost her mom young. Owen raised her. They're close. But there's close. And then there's Whitney. 3 months after our wedding, I came home to find my grandmother's dishes gone, replaced with modern black plates. Whitney was putting them away in our kitchen. Owen said she thought our old dishes looked dated. My grandmother's 60-year-old dishes were in a donation box in the garage. When I got upset, Owen said I was being ungrateful. 6 months in, Whitney had a key to our house, not for emergencies. A key she used regularly. I'd come home to find her rearranging furniture, going through our mail, restocking our fridge. When I asked Owen why, he said she was family, and I was being weird about boundaries. When I got pregnant, Whitney started sending parenting articles and baby name approvals. The name we picked wasn't strong enough. Our nursery colors were too stimulating. She convinced Owen we needed a bigger house before the baby came. We weren't even looking to move, but suddenly Owen was obsessed because Whitney said our house wasn't suitable for children. Then she started calling Owen Bear, some childhood nickname. She used it constantly. "Bear, I made your favorite dinner." Bear and I always do it this way. She'd post photos with captions like "My bear and me" and "sister goals." When I mentioned it made me uncomfortable. Owen said I was being jealous of his sister. My baby shower was supposed to be my mom and friends planning it. Whitney took over. Sent invitations without asking. Picked a theme I hated. Invited people I'd never met. Owen said, "Whitney put in so much work and I should be grateful." After our daughter was born, Whitney was at the hospital before my own mother. Owen had put her as an emergency contact. She was in the delivery room. I didn't want her there, but Owen said she'd be devastated if we excluded her. She held our daughter before my mom did. She posted the first photo. The caption said, "Officially an auntie to this perfect angel." The first month home, Whitney was there every day, letting herself in, picking up the baby without asking, giving unwanted advice. "You're holding her wrong. Bear, show her the right way." When I asked Owen to set boundaries, he said I was being hormonal. Last month, I suggested Christmas at my parents' house since we'd done Thanksgiving with Owen's family. Whitney lost it. Told Owen that splitting holidays wasn't how their family works, that I was trying to separate him from his sister. Owen agreed we'd stay home, with Whitney hosting. In my home. Last week, I came home to find Whitney with our daughter on her lap, showing Owen real estate listings. "Bear, look at this one. 2 blocks from my apartment, perfect for expanding the family." She'd already scheduled house tours. She looked at me and said, "You're back. Owen and I were just talking about getting you guys closer to family so I can help more with the baby." I asked Owen to talk privately. He got defensive, said living closer to Whitney would be good for our daughter, that I was being selfish. I told him his sister had taken over every aspect of our life. He said I was being dramatic, so I showed him her Instagram. My bear and me. Best sibling duo. Comments from people asking if they were married. Her responding with laughing emojis but never correcting them. Photos of them at dinners I wasn't at. Owen looked through it and said, "This is just how siblings are when they're close. You're reading into it." I'm looking at divorce lawyers because my husband chose his sister over his wife and convinced himself that's normal. When Grandma left me her restaurant, my family was thrilled. On opening day, my cousin was behind the counter. She'd forged my signature on ownership papers. When Grandma left me her restaurant, my family threw a party. Then they saw the will. My cousin Layla got nothing. The celebration stopped. For context, I'd worked at Grandma's diner since I was 14. Weekends, summers, every holiday. Layla visited twice a year for the free food. When Grandma got sick, I ran the place alone for 18 months. Layla sent a card once. When Grandma died, her will was clear. The restaurant goes to the one who showed up. My name, not Layla's. My Uncle Wade laughed when the lawyer read it. "You don't know anything about running a business." My Aunt Renee shook her head. Grandma must have been confused at the end. Layla just smiled. "I'm sure we can work something out." I spent 2 months renovating. New equipment, updated menu, hired staff. Layla started showing up during the work. "Just checking on Grandma's legacy," she'd say. I let her because I was stupid. She'd take pictures of everything, ask about suppliers, request copies of vendor contracts for the family records. She explained. Week before opening, I flew to Chicago for a supplier conference. 3 days. I told my manager Gina to hold down the fort. The morning I left, Layla stopped by with coffee. "Travel safe," she said. "I'll keep an eye on things." I landed back the night before opening day. Gina called me at the airport. "Don't come to the restaurant." Her voice was shaking. "Why not? Just go to your lawyer's office. Now." Mr. Foster, Grandma's lawyer, was waiting. "Someone filed an ownership transfer yesterday. Your signature." Your notary seal. It transferred the business to Layla, effective immediately. I stared at him. I was in Chicago. I know. Which is why we're calling the police. I drove to the restaurant at 5 a.m. anyway. Opening was scheduled for 6. The parking lot was full. I walked up to the door. New sign. Layla's place. My stomach dropped. I walked in. Layla was behind the counter in Grandma's apron, greeting customers like she'd been there for years. My aunt and uncle were at a table, cameras out, posting on social media. Grand opening of our family legacy. She saw me and smiled. Oh, you're back. I tried calling, but you must have been busy. There were some legal issues with the ownership transfer, so I handled it. You're welcome to apply for a server position if you need work. I pulled out my phone and called Mr. Foster. I'm here. She's operating the business. Stay there. Don't leave. 10 minutes later, 2 police cars pulled up. Mr. Foster walked in first, followed by 4 officers. Customers stopped eating. Layla's smile faltered. What's going on? Mr. Foster addressed the room. This establishment was obtained through forged documents. The person claiming ownership falsified legal paperwork and a notary seal. We have evidence she was in possession of the owner's personal documents without permission. Layla went white. My uncle stood up. This is a misunderstanding. Sir, did you help your daughter access the safe in the restaurant office? One officer asked. He sat back down. They arrested Layla for forgery, fraud, and identity theft. My aunt tried to leave. An officer blocked the door. We need to ask you some questions about your access to the business during the owner's absence. Customers were filming everything. Layla was crying, mascara running, being read her rights in Grandma's apron. My uncle had his hands over his face. My aunt was stammering about just helping family. The officers escorted them out. Mr. Foster handed me the keys. Building's yours. The forged documents have been voided. You can open today if you want. I looked at Gina, who'd been watching from the kitchen. She nodded. I looked at the staff Layla had called in, who were standing there confused. Anyone who wants to stay and work for the actual owner, clock in. We open in 20 minutes. Every single person stayed. We opened at 6:02 a.m. First customer through the door was Mrs. Chen, who'd been coming to Grandma's place for 30 years. I heard the commotion. Is everything okay? I smiled. Everything's perfect now.
I read my stepmom's diary out loud at Thanksgiving dinner. She had written about me in it. 17 entries over 4 years, and in every single one, she referred to me as the problem. Not by name, never by name, just the problem. As in, the problem was at breakfast again this morning, or talked to Glenn about the problem. And he says I'm overthinking it. I found the diary by accident when I was 16, looking for tape in her desk drawer. I read 3 pages standing up in her office and felt something shift behind my ribs that never shifted back. She had written that she wished my dad had gotten the kind of divorce where the kid goes with the mother. She had written that she could feel her life getting smaller every day I was in the house. She had written, in her actual handwriting, that she had married a man she loved and inherited a child she couldn't. Her name is Valerie. She married my dad, Glenn, when I was 12. She was careful. She never yelled, never insulted me to my face, never gave anyone a scene to point to. She just made the house feel like it had one too many people in it, and made sure I knew which one. Cold shoulders that lasted weeks. Conversations that stopped when I entered the room. Birthday dinners where she sat with her arms crossed and checked her phone. A constant low-frequency signal that said, you are not wanted here, and everyone can feel it. My dad called it adjustment. He said, blended families take time. When I told him at 14 that Valerie made me feel invisible, he said I was being unfair to someone who was trying. She wasn't trying. I had the proof in her handwriting, and I never told him because I was 16 and didn't think he'd choose correctly. I left for college at 18, and called home less and less until I wasn't calling at all. I'm 29 now. My dad has spent the last 2 years asking me to come to Thanksgiving. Last year I said no. This year my wife Nora said maybe it was time. Not for Valerie, not even for my dad, but for me. She said carrying it was costing me something, and I should decide if I wanted to keep paying. I drove to my dad's house on Thanksgiving morning. Valerie greeted me at the door like a hostess, not a stepmother. Polite, controlled, camera ready. She said it was lovely to see me, and touched my arm exactly once. There were 8 people at the table. My dad, Valerie, my uncle Reed, his wife, their 2 grown kids, Nora, and me. Halfway through dinner, my dad made a toast about how grateful he was to have the whole family together, and he looked at me when he said it, and his voice cracked slightly, and I realized he had no idea what was coming, and for 1 second, I almost didn't do it. But Valerie was smiling at him from the other end of the table, like she had built this moment herself, and something about that smile made the decision for me. I reached into my jacket and pulled out a small leather notebook. Valerie saw it before anyone else did. I watched her face go white from the bottom up, like someone had pulled a plug. I opened it and read the first entry out loud, the one about the problem being at breakfast. The table went quiet. I read the second one, the one where she wrote that she wished I had gone with my mother in the divorce. My uncle put his fork down. I read the one where she said she had married a man she loved and inherited a child she couldn't. My dad said my name once, the same way you'd say wait. I looked at him and said I had found this diary when I was 16 and had carried it for 13 years because I didn't think he'd choose me over her, and I was tired of carrying it. And everyone at this table should hear who Valerie actually was when she thought no one would read it. Valerie said I had no right to read her private thoughts. I told her she had no right to spend 4 years writing about a 12-year-old like he was a tumor she couldn't get removed, and then sit at this table and call it family. Nobody spoke. My dad looked at Valerie and asked if it was real. She didn't deny it. She said it was a long time ago and people process things privately, and it didn't mean what it sounded like. My dad pushed his chair back from the table and didn't say anything for what felt like a full minute. Then he said he needed to take a walk. He didn't come back for 40 minutes. Nora held my hand on the drive home and asked if I was okay. I told her I'd been carrying a leather notebook in my jacket pocket for 13 years, and it was finally someone else's weight now.
I called my adoptive mom, Mom, for the first time at my biological mother's funeral. I was placed with Laurel when I was 9. She was a court-appointed foster placement that turned permanent. I called her Laurel from the start, and she never corrected me. She told me once that names were my choice, and she meant it. Laurel works at the county clerk's office. Filing, records, notary stamps. She's not flashy. When I moved in, she had the spare room set up with a new comforter and a shelf full of books she'd picked based on my age. She guessed wrong on every title. I read them all anyway. We had our rhythm. She packed lunches. I left notes if I'd be late. She showed up to parent-teacher conferences in her work clothes, asked real questions, took notes. She drove me to therapy every Tuesday without ever asking what we talked about. I called her Laurel. I'm 22 now. I aged out of the system technically, but Laurel never acknowledged that as a concept. She just kept being there, helped me move into my first apartment, showed up with a toolbox, and spent 4 hours assembling furniture wrong, co-signed my lease, texted me every Sunday morning. I still called her Laurel. My biological mother's name was Stacy. She lost custody when I was 6. I don't have a lot of memories, just flashes. A brown couch, cereal for dinner, sirens once. I hadn't seen her since I was 7. 3 months ago, I got a call from a social worker. Stacy had passed. Overdose. They found my name in her belongings, an old school photo of me, 3rd grade, tucked inside a wallet. I didn't feel what I expected to feel. I thought I'd cry or feel nothing. Instead, I felt this dull pressure, like something heavy sitting on my chest that I couldn't name. I told Laurel. She listened. Didn't say she was sorry, didn't say anything about Stacy. She just asked, "Do you want to go to the service?" I said yes. She took the day off work. The funeral was small. A church basement in a town 2 hours away. Maybe 15 people. I didn't know any of them. Laurel sat next to me the whole time and didn't say a word the entire drive there. She wore a dark coat and brought tissues she kept in her pocket without offering them. She knew I'd ask if I needed them. After the service, a woman came up to me. Gray hair. Looked like she might have been a relative. "You must be the one from the photo," she said. She kept it in her wallet. I nodded. She looked at Laurel. "And who's this?" I didn't think about it. I didn't plan it. My mouth opened, and I said, "That's my mom." Laurel was holding the service program. Her hand stopped moving. She didn't look up for a second. The woman smiled and walked away. We didn't talk about it. Not during the service. Not during the 2-hour drive home. Not when we stopped for gas and she bought me a hot chocolate without asking if I wanted one. 2 days later, I was back at my apartment. Laurel called to check in. Normal Sunday text turned into a call. How was work? Did I eat? Was I sleeping okay? Then, right before she hung up, she said quietly, "You called me Mom." I sat down on my kitchen floor. "Yeah, I did. At the funeral." I know. She was quiet for a long time. "I didn't want to bring it up there," she said. "Didn't feel like my moment." My eyes were burning. "It's always been your moment," I said. She made this small sound, not quite crying, close, but not. "Well," she said, "I'm glad I was there for it." I called her last week to ask about renewing my lease. When she picked up, I said, "Hey, Mom, quick question." She answered like she'd been hearing it her whole life.
I started my new job, and my boss forced me to change my coffee order. Black coffee, no sugar, she said, staring at the vanilla latte in my hand. I blinked. "I'm sorry?" She stood up from her desk so fast her chair rolled backward and hit the wall. "Pour it out, right now. Go downstairs to the cafe and get black coffee. No sugar, nothing else. Or clean out your desk." "Miss Harwick, I don't understand. This is my first day." "Do it." Her voice cracked. "Please, just do it." The way she said please stopped me. There was something desperate in her eyes. Something that looked like genuine fear, like I was hurting her just by standing there with that cup. I thought about my rent being due in 2 weeks, my student loans, the 6 months it took to find this position. So I walked to the break room, poured my $8 latte down the sink, and went back downstairs. I got black coffee, no sugar, exactly like she said. When I walked back into her office, she exhaled like she'd been holding her breath. "Thank you." We started the workday. She was kind after that, even helpful. Walked me through the filing system, introduced me to important clients with glowing comments, gave me a substantive first assignment instead of busy work. That evening, she stayed 2 hours late helping me refine my work. The next week, she praised my report in the team meeting, called it exceptional. She assigned me the healthcare merger everyone had been competing for. She CC'd me on emails to senior partners, mentioned my contributions, built my reputation. My career trajectory changed overnight. At my first monthly review, I showed up with black coffee without being asked. Miss Harwick smiled when she saw it. We had an incredible meeting. She recommended me for a raise 3 months early and got it approved. More weeks passed. A promotion to senior associate, lead roles on major projects. Clients started requesting me specifically. I began buying black coffee every single morning, even on weekends when I worked from home, just in case she called. It seemed like such a small thing to trade for this kind of success. Then one Tuesday, my alarm didn't go off. I woke up 40 minutes late, panicked, and grabbed the first coffee I saw on the kitchen counter. My roommate's vanilla latte. I didn't realize until I was already at my desk, halfway through drinking it. I felt her shadow before I heard her voice. "My office. Now." Miss Harwick's voice was cold as winter. She closed the door behind us and locked it. "I told you," she said, her hands trembling with rage. "I specifically told you about the coffee on your very first day. I was late. I grabbed the wrong cup. I'm sorry." She looked at me like I'd done something unforgivable. "After everything I've done for you, the promotions, the raises, the client meetings, the opportunities I created," I said quietly. "What are you saying?" "I'm saying your work was fine before, competent. I'm saying I could have put you on the partner track next quarter." But now she shook her head slowly. "Now I need to reconsider everything." My voice came out flat. "You've been manipulating my entire career over coffee?" She didn't answer, just turned and walked out, leaving me standing there. I went straight to HR. Filed a formal complaint. Included documentation of everything. Dates, exact conversations, my actual performance metrics versus the opportunities I'd received or had threatened. I started talking to other employees quietly. 4 others came forward within days. One had been told to always arrive at exactly 8:52 a.m., never 9 o'clock, never 8:51. Another couldn't wear anything blue ever. Another had to say goodbye, never see you later, when leaving for the day. One more had to keep a specific photo frame on their desk. All specific, all bizarre, all tied directly to their career advancement or stagnation. The investigation took 3 weeks. Miss Harwick was placed on administrative leave, then quietly asked to resign. She tried to fight it, hired a lawyer, claimed workplace conspiracy, but the pattern was undeniable. I kept trying to find out why coffee mattered, why 8:52, why no blue, why goodbye. HR cited privacy and wouldn't tell me. The other employees had completely different requirements. Nothing connected them. No pattern I could see. But yesterday, I was searching the company's archived newsletters for a completely unrelated project, and I found one from 4 years ago. An obituary announcement. Miss Harwick's wife had died after a 2-year battle with cancer. I clicked on the attached memorial photo from their commitment ceremony. She was holding a cup of black coffee.
My parents named me after a typo on my birth certificate, and my father showed up at my apartment with a family petition demanding I change it back. My legal name is Gregory, not Gregory. Gregory. 2 R's, crammed in there like a stutter on paper. When I was born, the nurse filling out the birth certificate misspelled my name. My parents noticed a week later. Instead of filing for a correction, which apparently costs $30 and takes 10 minutes, my father decided the universe had spoken. It's unique, he said. It makes you different. Different is one word for it. A disaster is another. For 18 years, every single document, every roll call, every substitute teacher, every doctor's office, every standardized test was the same experience. Someone would look at my name, squint, look again, and say, Greg, Rory, and I'd have to explain that no, it's not a nickname, it's not a middle name, it's my actual legal name. And yes, my parents kept it on purpose. By middle school, I just told people to call me Greg. My friends called me Greg. My teachers called me Greg. Online, I was Greg. The only people who insisted on Greg Rory were my parents. My father especially. He turned that typo into a philosophy. Gregory means you don't follow the crowd. No, Dad, it means a nurse was tired during a night shift and nobody bothered to fix it. The day I turned 18, I went to the courthouse and filed for a legal name change. Gregory. Normal, simple, spelled correctly. The clerk processed it in 20 minutes. When she handed me the confirmation, I stood in the hallway holding that paper and felt something I'd never felt before. Relief. Like putting down a bag I'd been carrying since birth. I told my mom first. She took it surprisingly well. She sighed and said, I always thought we should have fixed it. Then she paused. Don't tell your father. That should have been my warning. But I was 20 years old and naive enough to think a grown man wouldn't lose his mind over a vowel. My father found out 3 months later when he saw a mail addressed to Gregory at my apartment. He held the envelope up like it was evidence at a trial. What is this? I said. That's my name. My real name. The one the nurse meant to write. He went completely silent for about a minute, which is terrifying when you know my father, because the man has never been silent in his life. Silence from my father means a storm is forming. He left without a word. I thought maybe he was processing. Maybe he'd come around. Instead, the next Saturday morning, he showed up at my apartment with a binder. A full binder. Inside was a petition he'd typed up titled, Restore the Original Name of Gregory, and he'd gotten 19 family members to sign it. Aunts, uncles, cousins, my grandmother on his side. He'd called each one individually and explained the situation and gotten them to write their name on a dotted line next to statements like, I believe Gregory is a meaningful family name, and this name change disrespects parental tradition. 19 signatures for a typo. This is the family's position, he said, holding the binder like it was a legal brief. You're not just changing your name, you're erasing our decision. I said, Dad, it wasn't a decision. It was a mistake. His face went red. We chose to keep it. That makes it a decision. He sat down at my kitchen table uninvited and pulled out a second document, a printout from a baby name website showing that Gregory had been searched 0 times in the history of the site. You see this? He said. You're the only one. That's special. I said, being the only person with a misspelled name isn't special. It's lonely. He tried a different angle. I'll pay for you to change it back. I'll cover the court fees, the paperwork, everything. I said no. He tried guilt. Your grandfather would be devastated. My grandfather's name was Carl. Nobody misspelled Carl. Then came the ultimatum. If you keep this, you're telling the whole family that our choices don't matter. I looked at him. Dad, for 18 years, every time someone read my name, I had to apologize for a mistake you refused to fix. I'm not apologizing anymore. He stared at me. His jaw was tight. I could see him cycling through every argument he had left and realizing none of them worked. He picked up the binder slowly. You'll regret this, he said. Then he walked out. After years of no contact, my parents invited me to dinner and handed me a card. Inside was a letter congratulating me for becoming my sister's surrogate, without ever asking if I'd risk my life to carry her baby. I was the mistake child, born premature with a heart condition, while my sister Mary was the golden apple. My parents never let me forget which one of us they actually wanted. Mary got elaborate birthday parties with themes and decorations. I got, we'll celebrate next weekend, that never came. She got a car at 16. I got reminded how much my medical bills cost, even though my grandparents paid every cent insurance didn't cover. The day she shoved me down the stairs for touching her school project, Mom told me to be more careful around Mary's things. The bruise on my back lasted 3 weeks. I escaped at 18 with my grandparents' help, went to college 5 states away, and met Greg. He made me feel like I mattered for the first time in my life. We got married after graduation. My parents didn't come. Mary didn't even send a card. When I got pregnant, doctors warned me it could be fatal. My heart couldn't handle it, but I couldn't terminate. 9 months of hospital stays later, I survived barely. The doctors gathered Greg and me in a private room. No more pregnancies, they said, showing us my cardiac scans. Your heart can't take another one. Next time, we might not be able to save you. Greg and I built a life far from my hometown. Then my grandpa's health declined, and we moved back to be near him. Suddenly, my parents were calling, asking how I was doing, acting proud of me. Mary was texting, being friendly. After 20 years of nothing,
They wanted a relationship. I knew something was wrong. 2 weeks after we moved back, they invited us to dinner. Mom made her famous lasagna. Dad kept refilling my wine glass. They were trying too hard. Halfway through, Mary pulled out a fancy envelope with my name, written in calligraphy, and handed it to me with this smug smile. Inside was a card congratulating me for becoming her future baby's carrier, like I should be honored to risk my life for her infertility. She'd even included potential due dates. "I can't," I said, my hands shaking. "My doctor said another pregnancy could kill me. My heart." Mary burst into tears before I could finish. Dad slammed his fist on the table. "After everything we've done for you, this is how you repay us?" Mom's voice was ice cold. "Mary can't have children. You can. It's that simple. You owe this family." "I almost died having my son," I said. "But you didn't," Dad shot back. "So clearly you can handle it." Greg stood up, grabbed my hand. "We're leaving. This is insane." Mary screamed after us, "You're killing my only chance at being a mother!" The drive home was silent. I couldn't stop shaking. Days passed, then weeks. No apology, just radio silence. Then Mom texted, "We need to talk." "No, I'm sorry." No acknowledgement of what happened, just a demand. When I met her at the coffee shop, she didn't apologize. She didn't ask about my health. She said Mary was devastated, and I needed to reconsider. "The doctors said it could kill me," I repeated slowly, like talking to a child. "You're being selfish," she said, not even blinking. "Mary needs you. Family helps family." Where was family when I was growing up? The words came out before I could stop them. She stood up. "You always were ungrateful." I walked out. Then my grandmother called, voice shaking. "Your parents are talking to a lawyer. They're saying they'll take legal action to force you to be Mary's surrogate. Something about medical rights, last resort options. I don't know exactly, but they're serious." My blood went cold. I contacted a lawyer that same day. She assured me they had no case, that you can't force someone to be a surrogate, especially with my medical history. But she agreed to represent us if they tried. "Document everything," she said. "Every text, every call." Weeks of silence. Then one final text from Mom. "We're disappointed in you. You've let the family down." I stared at it for a long time. Then I realized something. I hadn't let them down. They'd been letting me down my entire life. I was just done pretending it didn't matter. I blocked their numbers. All of them.
At 16, my mom said, "You were a mistake anyway, so why waste a room on you?" They threw me out like trash. One call from Grandpa flipped their entire world upside down. Turns out, I was living in his house the whole time. I'm Felix. At 16, I wasn't the son. I was the designated punching bag. My sister Ashley was the golden child. She crashed our parents' car into a storefront. They made me pay for it. Sold my guitar. Cut my allowance. Told me it was my fault for not stopping her. That was just another Tuesday in our house. The night everything changed, I overheard them through my bedroom door. "I want him gone," Ashley said. Dad didn't hesitate. "Then tell him to leave. We'll back you up." Mom laughed. "Your room's finally going to be bigger." The next morning, they kicked me out. Mom's exact words. "You were a mistake anyway. Why waste a room on you?" Dad locked the door behind me. I had nowhere to go except my grandparents' house. Grandma opened the door, saw my backpack, and pulled me into a hug. "You're staying here." End of story. When Grandpa found out, his face hardened in a way I'd never seen. "I've been paying their bills for years," he said quietly. "Electric, property tax, everything." I looked up, confused. "You what?" "I bought them that house when they got married. Kept it in my name. They've been tenants without rent." My stomach dropped. "Wait, you own it?" "Every brick." He leaned back. "And they repay me by throwing out my grandson." He pulled out a lawyer's card. "Call him in the morning. Tell him who you are and what happened." The next day, I called Alonzo. He confirmed everything. "That house isn't theirs legally. Your grandfather can evict them whenever he wants." Grandpa picked up his phone and put it on speaker. When Dad answered, Grandpa's voice was calm. "Time to pack your things and leave the house." Silence. Then laughter. "You can't be serious," Mom said. "Dead serious. You forgot whose name is on the deed." "It's mine," Dad stammered. "You can't just kick us out. I paid for every year you live there. The house, the bills, the taxes. Consider this your eviction notice." Ashley's voice cut in. "This is ridiculous," Grandpa chuckled. "Still running your mouth. You sound just like your mother." "Dad, please," Mom hissed. "You threw my grandson on the street. Now it's your turn." He hung up. 2 days later, they showed up. All 3 of them. Dad cleared his throat. "Felix has manipulated you. He's twisted everything." I laughed. "You locked the door behind me." Mom jumped in. "He's exaggerating. You know how dramatic kids can be?" Grandpa's voice was ice. "You're blaming him for what?" Ashley spoke up. "He's jealous. I've always worked hard." "You crashed a car into a store?" I said. Her face went pale. Grandma stepped forward. "Teresa told me the whole story. How you promised to pay and said Ashley was learning. Only thing is, Teresa never saw Ashley again. I was the one who paid for it," I said quietly. "They sold my guitar and made me hand over my savings." Grandpa stared at them. "You made this boy pay for her mistake." The room went silent. "You have 1 month to leave that house," Grandpa said. After that, I called the police. They backed out slowly. Ashley glared at me. "You'll regret this." I smirked. "Doubt it." But they didn't leave quietly. 2 nights later, I heard footsteps on the stairs. It was midnight. My dad was halfway up, moving quietly. Grandpa stepped out, holding something in his hand. "Don't move, Dad. It's me. I just came to talk through the back door." "You break into my house and want to talk?" Mom's voice came from downstairs. "Please, Dad. You have 10 seconds to get out." Dad took a step down, then lunged forward, shoving Grandpa hard toward the stairs. "Grandpa!" I shouted, grabbing Dad and slamming him against the wall. Grandma ran out and grabbed the phone. "I'm calling the police. My son just tried to push my husband down the stairs." Dad froze. "The cameras caught everything," Grandma said, pointing to the security device. Within minutes, police arrived. They reviewed the footage. Dad's hands shot forward, pushing hard. They handcuffed him without another word. Dad was charged with attempted assault. Mom and Ashley were evicted within a month. Grandpa sat me down with a stack of folders. "The house, the land, the savings. All yours when we're gone. You earned it." I just nodded, trying not to cry. A few weeks later, Grandpa handed me a set of keys on the porch at sunset. "You belong here, kid. This is your home now." I looked at the keys. Silver, heavy, real, and felt peace for the first time in years. For once, I wasn't the kid trying to survive his family. At 17, my adopted sister accused me of getting her pregnant. My family disowned me. My girlfriend left and I vanished. 10 years later, the truth came out and they showed up crying at my door. I didn't answer. I was 17 the night Anne stood up during Thanksgiving dinner and told everyone I'd gotten her pregnant. My dad's fist connected with my jaw before I could speak. I hit the floor, blood pooling in my mouth. My mom screamed like someone had died. My brother spit next to my face and said, "You're disgusting." The police questioned me for 6 hours. When did it happen? Where were you? Did she say no? I kept saying it never happened. They didn't charge me. No evidence. But by morning, the whole town knew. My girlfriend Emma texted at 7 a.m. "My parents won't let me see you anymore. They think you're dangerous. I'm sorry. I can't lose my family. 1 year together. Erased." When I got home, my clothes were on the lawn. Dad stood in the doorway. "You're dead to us," he said. Not yelling, just cold, like he was talking to a stranger. I tried to speak. He shut the door in my face. I slept in my car behind a Walmart that first night. The parking lot lights hummed all night. I couldn't stop shaking. Not from cold, from the realization that everything I'd known for 17 years was just gone. My phone kept buzzing with blocked numbers. People from school, I guess, calling to tell me what a monster I was. I turned it off and stared at the ceiling fabric of my car, peeling at the edges. I remember thinking, this is my life now. This is what I am to everyone. For 3 weeks, I showered at truck stops for $5, ate whatever I could afford, day-old donuts, gas station hot dogs, vending machine crackers. I'd park at different stores each night so security wouldn't notice the same car. I got good at being invisible. Then Marcus found me. He owned a welding shop in the industrial district. Caught me sitting in my car at 6 a.m., wearing my only clean shirt, pretending I had somewhere to go. "You look lost, kid," he said, tapping my window. "I'm fine," I lied. "No, you're not." He studied me for a second. "You eat today?" I hadn't. He brought me inside, made me a sandwich, and handed me a welding mask. "You'll burn yourself at first, but you'll learn. Pays cash daily. You want it or not?" I nodded, not trusting my voice. For 2 years, Marcus taught me everything. Metal fabrication, TIG welding, blueprint reading. He paid me cash at first, then put me on payroll when I turned 18. He let me sleep on a cot in the shop's back office for 6 months until I could afford a room. One night, after we'd closed up, he asked me straight, "You gonna tell me what happened, or are we gonna keep pretending you're just some runaway?" I told him everything. The accusation, the beating, the exile. When I finished, he was quiet for a long time. "People believe what's easier," he finally said. "Truth takes work. That's why they picked the lie." He looked at me then, really looked at me. But here's the thing. You can't fix what they broke. You can only build something new, something they can't touch. That stuck with me. At 22, I moved 3 states away. Legally changed my name to Carter Rhodes, my grandmother's maiden name. She was the only one who ever believed the best in me before she died. At 25, I opened Rhodes Metalworks. Small shop, good clients, honest work. Then last month, my phone rang. Unknown number. "Carter?" The voice made my stomach drop. "It's Emma." I pulled over. "How did you—" "I've been looking for you for 2 years," she said, words tumbling out. "You need to know. Anne got arrested." My hands went numb. "What?" She accused another guy. Same story, same lie. But this guy had money for a lawyer. He fought back hard. During the investigation, Anne broke down and confessed. To everything, including what she did to you. The world tilted. "She what?" "The real father was some 23-year-old from a party. When she told him she was pregnant, he disappeared. She panicked and blamed you because you were safe. Because she knew everyone would believe her over you." Emma's voice cracked. "The police cleared your name officially. It's been in the papers." I sat there, phone pressed to my ear, unable to form words. "I'm sorry I didn't fight for you back then," Emma whispered. "I was 17 and scared, but that's no excuse. You deserved better." We talked for 20 more minutes. She's married now, has 2 kids. Happy. She said she needed me to know the truth came out, that she never stopped feeling guilty. After we hung up, I just sat in my truck for an hour, staring at nothing. The calls started that night. My mother sobbing through voicemails. My dad sending emails with subject lines like, "Please read this." And "We were wrong." My brother showed up at my shop last week unannounced. "Mom's sick," he said. "Cancer. She wants to see you before—" "No, Carter, she's dying. You can't just—" "I can, and I am." I walked back inside and locked the door. Through the glass, I watched him stand there for 5 minutes before he left. Yesterday, another letter arrived. My father's handwriting, shakier now. I set it on my desk with the others. 13 letters total, all unopened. They erased me when it was convenient. Now I'm returning the favor. At dinner, my dad slammed his fist on the dinner table, silverware rattling, and roared, "You're selfish, Mia. Your sister is better than you in every possible way." It was supposed to be Mom's birthday dinner. The table was set with care, candles flickering, polished plates glowing under their light. My aunts gossiped in hushed tones. My cousins laughed over wine. Mom radiated joy, finally getting attention that wasn't about Chloe. But peace in our family never stayed long. As we began to eat, Dad did what he always did. Steer the conversation back to my sister. His voice swelled with pride. "She's thriving at college. Straight A's, juggling work, perfect in every way." I forced a smile and chewed slowly, the familiar speech landing like stones in my stomach. "She's got potential," Dad continued. "She'll be someone great. Everything a father could want." It wasn't Chloe I resented. It was the way I had become invisible next to her. Every gathering, no matter whose moment it was supposed to be, always turned into Chloe's show. Then Dad turned those sharp eyes on me. "Mia, are you helping Chloe enough? Helping her enough?" I had been paying her rent for months, covering groceries, her phone bill, even sending her money when she overspent. Before I could respond, Dad turned to Chloe like a prosecutor baiting his witness. "Does she help you?" Chloe tilted her head, pausing just long enough to draw everyone's attention. Then she smiled, sugary sweet. "She does, but there's something I've been meaning to ask. I need a car, Mia. It would make school and work so much easier." The room went still. Every pair of eyes turned to me. "A car," I repeated, setting my fork down. "If she needs a car, why don't you buy it?" The air thickened instantly. Dad's jaw clenched. "You mean to tell me you can't do that for your sister? I'm already paying her rent. If she wants a car, that's her responsibility." That's when he snapped. His voice rose, booming, each word sharper than the last. "Chloe has potential. She's going places, but she needs support. I pour half my income into her future because she deserves it. And you can't even do this one thing?" The table sank into silence. My cousins stared at their plates. Chloe feigned embarrassment, but the smug smirk tugging at her lips betrayed her. Then Dad delivered the final blow. "She's better than you, Mia. Always has been. Always will be." The entire room froze. Forks hung midair. Mom gasped, her eyes darting between us. I didn't cry. I didn't shout back. Instead, I laughed. sharp, cold. Perfect, I said, locking my gaze on Dad. Then I won't be paying her rent anymore. The silence that followed felt heavier than stone. Dad's face flushed red, veins rising at his temples. He pushed his chair back so hard it screeched across the floor. Get out! He roared, pointing at me. If you're so selfish, you don't belong here. Mom's hand flew to her mouth. My cousins whispered uneasily. Chloe kept her head down, but her silence spoke volumes. She wanted this outcome. I stood slowly, steady, forcing a calm expression. Happy birthday, Mom, I said softly. Then I walked out. The next morning, I canceled every automatic payment to Chloe's accounts. Rent, utilities, phone, groceries, everything. Within 3 days, my phone exploded. 17 missed calls from Chloe, 12 from Dad. Mom texted me quietly. I understand. I love you. Chloe's first voicemail was pure panic. Mia, my landlord said rent is overdue. What did you do? By voicemail 5, she was crying. I can't afford this. You're ruining my life. By voicemail 10, Dad was threatening. You will fix this immediately, or you're no longer part of this family. I didn't respond to any of them. 2 weeks later, Chloe moved back home. No more apartment, no more independence. No more thriving. Back in her childhood bedroom, while Dad scrambled to cover the expenses he'd always assumed I would handle. Mom called me a month later. Your father hasn't stopped complaining about money since Chloe moved back. He had no idea how much you were actually paying. Maybe he should have asked before calling me selfish. Dad finally called me 6 weeks later. His voice was tight, strained. We need to talk about Chloe's situation. What situation? She needs help. She can't stay here forever. Sounds like something her father should handle. After all, she's better than me in every possible way. The silence on his end was deafening. Mia, you told me I was selfish for not buying her a car while I was already paying her rent. You kicked me out of Mom's birthday dinner. You said I don't belong in this family. He didn't respond. So I'm giving you exactly what you wanted. Handle it yourself. I hung up. Turns out the selfish daughter was the only one keeping the golden child's life afloat. At dinner, my dad slammed his fist on the table, silverware rattling, and roared, "You're selfish, Vera. Your brother is better than you in every possible way." It was supposed to be Dad's retirement dinner. The table was set beautifully, wine flowing, laughter echoing. My uncles told old stories. My cousins shared toasts. Dad beamed with pride, finally getting the attention he'd worked 30 years for. But in our family, the spotlight never stayed where it belonged. Halfway through the meal, Dad did what he always did, turned the conversation to my brother. His voice swelled with admiration. Owen's business is exploding. New clients every week, traveling for deals, building something real. I nodded along, chewing mechanically, that familiar knot forming in my chest. Owen sat straighter, adjusting his expensive watch, soaking in the praise. He's got vision, Dad continued. Self-made, everything I hoped my son would become. Self-made. The word tasted bitter. I'd been quietly funding Owen's thriving business for 2 years. The office rent, his assistant's salary, even his business lunches with clients. Owen caught my eye and smiled, soft, almost apologetic. But he never corrected Dad's version of the story. Then Dad turned to me, his expression shifting. Vera, maybe you could learn something from your brother's ambition. Before I could respond, Owen leaned forward, all charm and confidence. Actually, I have an opportunity. A huge client wants to partner with me, but I need capital. 20,000 for the expansion. The room fell silent. Every fork paused midair. 20,000, I repeated slowly. For your business. It's an investment, Owen said smoothly. In 6 months, I'll triple it. Dad's eyes lit up. He turned to me expectantly. This is exactly what I'm talking about. Owen has vision. I felt the weight of every gaze at that table pressing into me. If it's such a good investment, why don't you fund it? The temperature dropped. Dad's jaw tightened. Excuse me? You're retired now. You've got savings. If Owen's business is so promising, invest yourself. Dad's face darkened, voice rising. You make good money and you can't support your brother's dreams? I've been supporting his dreams for 2 years. The words hung in the air like smoke. Owen's confident smile flickered. The table went deathly quiet. What are you talking about? Dad's voice was sharp. I've been paying his office rent, his assistant, his business expenses. $1,800 a month for 24 months. I looked directly at Owen. How exactly is your business exploding? Owen's face drained of color. My uncles exchanged glances. Mom's hand covered her mouth. Dad stood abruptly, chair scraping against hardwood. His voice exploded through the room. That's enough. Owen is building something. He needs support during growth. That's what family does. He pointed at me, hand shaking. But you're too selfish to see the bigger picture. Your brother is better than you. Always has been. Always will be. The entire room froze. My youngest cousin stared wide-eyed. Mom whispered, "Please, not tonight." I didn't cry. I didn't yell. I laughed. Cold. Sharp. Perfect, I said, meeting Dad's glare. Then Owen won't need my money anymore. Dad's face flushed crimson. If you're going to be selfish, you can leave. I stood slowly, collected my purse, and smiled at Mom. Happy retirement, Dad. Then I walked out. The next morning, I canceled every business payment linked to Owen's accounts. Office rent, assistant salary, insurance, website hosting, everything. Within 48 hours, my phone exploded. 23 missed calls from Owen, 15 from Dad. Mom texted, "I didn't know. I'm sorry." Owen's first voicemail was pure panic. "Vera, my landlord is threatening eviction. What's going on?" By voicemail 7, he was desperate. "I have clients coming. I can't lose the office." By voicemail 12, Dad was furious. "You will fix this, or you're done in this family." I didn't respond to any of them. 3 weeks later, Owen closed his business. No office, no assistant, no impressive meetings. He moved back into Mom and Dad's basement while scrambling for a regular job. Mom called me 6 weeks later. "Your father's been silent for days. Owen finally told us everything. How much you were paying, how little the business actually made. Maybe Dad should have asked before calling me selfish." Dad called 2 months later. His voice was strained. "We need to talk about Owen." "What about him?" "He's struggling. He needs help getting back on his feet." "Sounds like something his father should handle. After all, he's better than me in every possible way." Silence stretched between us. "You told me I was selfish for not investing in his business while I was already funding it. You kicked me out of your retirement dinner." He said nothing. "So, I'm giving you exactly what you wanted. Handle it yourself." I hung up. Turns out the selfish daughter was the only thing keeping the golden child's empire from collapsing. At family dinner, my niece sneered, "We don't sit where you're kind." They all laughed. What they didn't know, I own every property they live in. My wife, Sophie, is from the Philippines. She's an ICU nurse who works night shifts, handles life or death decisions at 3 a.m., and deals with families who scream at medical staff. The woman has more grace under pressure than anyone I've ever met. My family never accepted her. They constantly ask where she's really from, compliment her English like it's surprising she can form sentences. My dad once told me I was brave for marrying someone from a different culture. Like I'd adopted a rescue dog instead of marrying a woman. Here's what made this satisfying. I own 18 rental properties worth $3.2 million. Several family members live in my properties without knowing I'm their landlord. My parents' house? I bought it 5 years ago when they faced foreclosure after Dad's heart surgery bills. Paid $140,000 cash, put the deed in my name, let them live rent-free. They still think they own it. My brother Calvin's place? Let him stay at $1,400 a month for a house worth $2,200. He has no idea I'm his landlord. Rent checks go to my property management company. Uncle Howard's duplex? $900 a month for a place worth $1,500. When we arrived at Calvin's birthday dinner, Patricia had set up a beautiful table. Good china, cloth napkins, fresh flowers, name cards, and silver holders. Everyone else sat at the main table. 15 people. Mom and Dad at the heads, aunts, uncles, cousins, even my niece Brittany's friends. Sophie and I had name cards at a folding table in the hallway next to the coat closet and bathroom. What's this? I asked Patricia. We ran out of room, she said breezily. But don't worry, you'll still hear the conversation. There were 2 empty chairs at the main table. That's when Brittany looked directly at Sophie. We don't really sit with your kind anyway. The room went silent. I waited for someone to correct her. My mother studied her plate. My father focused on his bread roll. Nobody said a word. Patricia smiled. The main table is for core family. You understand? Something in me snapped. I stood up, pulled out my phone, and opened my property management app. First call, Denise. Start eviction proceedings on 3 properties. Tonight, the table went dead quiet. Second call, Mitchell. Draft documents transferring 447 Maple Street back to the bank. Mom and Dad can work out new payment arrangements with them. My mother gasped. Third call, David, restructure my portfolio. 3 properties moving to market rate immediately. I looked at Calvin. Your rent is going to $2,200 instead of $1,400. Official notice tomorrow. His mouth opened and closed like a fish. I turned to Uncle Howard. $1,500 a month starting next month. Then my parents. The house you think you own? I own it. I've been letting you live there free because family helps family. But apparently, I'm not core family. I turned to Brittany. You just cost your parents $800 a month, your grandparents their house, and your uncle his affordable rent. Hope that comment felt worth it. We walked out. The next morning, I followed through. Certified mail, return receipt requested. Calvin called screaming. I told him $2,200 was generous. Market rate was $2,400. My mother called crying. I reminded her she'd watched her granddaughter insult my wife and said nothing. 2 weeks later, my parents sued me for elder abuse, claiming I'd promised them the house. Case got laughed out of court when I showed the deed with my name and bank records proving I paid in full. Calvin and Patricia canceled Brittany's Sweet 16 party and sold their boat. Patricia got a part-time job. My parents worked out a mortgage at current rates. Dad had to unretire for a hardware store job. 6 months later, Calvin called, actually humble. Is there any way we can fix this? Start by treating my wife with respect. Is the rent ever going back down? No. Last week, Dad asked if we'd come to Calvin's birthday dinner. Said they'd really like us there. I asked if Sophie would be seated at the main table. Long pause. Of course, he finally said. I'll think about it. I probably won't go, but it was nice to be asked properly.
At my birthday dinner, my 8-year-old niece threw my $2,400 camera off the balcony and laughed when it shattered. Even after I showed the Ring doorbell footage, my sister and brother-in-law said I was overreacting. The next day, my mom taught them a lesson they're still talking about. I was showing my uncle the photos from my trip to Iceland when I heard the sliding door open behind me. I turned just in time to see Sienna standing at the balcony railing, my Canon R5 in both hands, grinning at me. "Catch, Uncle Nathan," she said, and threw it over the edge. The sound of it hitting the concrete 3 stories down felt like a punch to the stomach. Shattered glass, cracked plastic, 6 years of saving, gone in 3 seconds. I stood there, frozen, unable to process what just happened. Sienna threw her head back and laughed, not a nervous laugh, a full, proud laugh. Then she looked me dead in the eye and said, "Oops." She was 8 years old. My sister Claire and her husband Trevor had been staying at Mom's place for 2 months after their rental fell through. Sienna had free reign of everything. Every time I told her my camera bag was off limits, Trevor would wave me off. "Nathan, she's curious. That's how kids learn." I walked back inside, my hands trembling with rage but keeping my voice level. "Sienna needs to apologize. Now." Sienna ran to Claire and buried her face in her side. I didn't mean to. I explained what happened. The camera, the balcony, the laugh, everything. Claire's face tightened. "Nathan, she said it was an accident. Why are you attacking her?" Trevor just crossed his arms. "You shouldn't have left it where she could reach it." I pulled out my phone and showed them the Ring doorbell footage. Crystal clear. Sienna opening my camera bag, picking up the camera, walking to the balcony, throwing it with both hands, laughing. Claire watched, her jaw clenched, then looked away. "She's 8, Nathan. She doesn't understand how expensive that is." Trevor leaned forward. "Honestly, if you cared about it that much, you should have locked it up." That's when I snapped. "Are you serious? You watched her throw it and you're blaming me?" The dining room went dead silent. My mom, sitting at the head of the table, hadn't said a word, but her knuckles were white around her fork. Trevor stood up. "What are you implying, Nathan? That we're bad parents?" Before I could respond, Mom's voice cut through the room like ice. "Everyone, sit down." The room froze. Mom turned to Sienna and said firmly, "Sienna, what you did was wrong. Apologize to your uncle." Sienna said nothing. Claire leaned over and whispered, "You don't have to, baby. He's just upset." Mom's jaw tightened. She pushed back her chair and left the table without another word. The next morning, Mom called everyone to the living room before breakfast. The tension from last night still hung thick. Sienna sat on the couch, glued to her iPad Pro, swiping through videos like nothing had happened. Mom walked over, took the iPad from her hands without warning, and dropped it into the kitchen sink. She turned on the garbage disposal. The grinding, crunching sound filled the entire house. Claire screamed, "Mom, what are you doing?" Before Trevor could move, Mom turned to me and nodded. I stepped forward, looked Claire straight in the eye, and said slowly, "Oops." Cold, direct, unwavering. Trevor's face went pale. "Are you out of your mind?" Sienna burst into tears.
running to her mother. Mom stepped into the center of the room, her voice calm but deadly. How does that feel? That feeling is exactly what Nathan carried last night. Claire pulled the mangled iPad from the sink, hands shaking. Mom, that iPad cost $900. That's our property. Mom's voice didn't waver. And Nathan's camera was just trash? She froze. I'm calling Dad. Go ahead, Mom said. And while you're at it, tell him what your daughter did to Nathan's camera. The room went silent. That night, Claire finally spoke, her voice barely above a whisper. I think we need to get her help. Real help. Trevor nodded, looking broken. There's a program for kids with behavioral issues. Mom looked at me. Nathan, find one. 2 weeks later, we drove Sienna to the facility. She cried the entire way, begging Claire to take her home. Claire stared out the window, tears streaming down her face. When the doors closed behind Sienna, I felt hollow. It wasn't revenge. It was the wake-up call she'd never gotten. 11 months later, everything changed. Claire and Trevor moved into their own place. They stopped defending and started parenting. Sienna sent me a package with a handwritten card. Dear Uncle Nathan, I'm so sorry for what I did. I was wrong. I saved my allowance. It's not much, but it's a start. Inside was $47 in crumpled bills. Since then, no more tantrums, no more destruction. Every Sunday, I pick her up, and we go to the park. She brings her disposable camera. I bring my new DSLR, and we take photos together.
At my daughter's birthday party, everyone started handing over their gifts. When my sister approached, she grabbed all the gifts one by one and threw them against the wall, breaking everything. I confronted her, saying, "What is wrong with you?" She started laughing while my daughter cried in front of everyone. See, she's finally lost it completely, my mother said, almost satisfied. Uncle Jim nodded. Told you she'd snap eventually. My husband Mark stepped forward. We need to call someone. She's dangerous. That's when my 7-year-old daughter Harper wiped her tears and said something that stopped everyone cold. Aunt Paige isn't crazy. She's trying to tell mommy something. Harper walked to the wreckage and picked up a broken picture frame. Behind the shattered glass was a photo, but someone had drawn on it. Red marker. My face circled. An X through it. My hands trembled as I grabbed another destroyed gift. A beautiful scarf, but when I unfolded it, there were words written inside. You're next. I looked at Paige. She'd stopped laughing. Tears streamed down her face as she pointed at the pile. Check them, she whispered. Check all of them. One by one, we tore through the wreckage. Every single gift had been tampered with. The jewelry box contained a note. Soon. The candles had needles pushed into the wax. The children's book had pages replaced with printed threats. Who did this? I breathed. Paige's eyes locked onto Mark, my husband. Him. The room went silent. Mark laughed nervously. She's insane. Don't listen to her. I saw him, Paige said, voice steady now. Last night, I came by to drop off my gift early. He was in the garage, modifying everything. I watched through the window before he saw me. He chased me, told me if I said anything, he'd make sure everyone knew I was crazy again. Again? I turned to my mother. Mom's face went pale. Paige, don't. Don't what? Don't tell her that you helped him have me committed 3 years ago? That you signed papers saying I was delusional when I told you Mark was stalking me before he even started dating her? My world tilted. What are you talking about? Mark didn't meet you at that coffee shop by accident, Paige said. He'd been following our family for months, obsessed with you. I caught him taking photos outside your work. When I confronted him, he spun it around, told Mom and Dad I was having a psychotic break. They believed him. That's absurd, Mark said, but his voice cracked. Is it? Paige pulled out her phone, swiped through photos. Mark parked outside my work when I thought he was traveling. Mark talking to a woman, handing her money. Mark in our garage last night, hunched over wrapped presents. Why would you destroy them instead of just telling me? Because no one believes me, Paige said, voice breaking. They never believe me. I'm the crazy sister. But if I forced everyone to see the threats, if I made them look, she gestured at the wreckage. You couldn't ignore it. I turned to Mark. Your phone. Unlock it. Now. This is ridiculous. I'm your husband. Then you have nothing to hide. His jaw clenched. Then he ran. Bolted for the door. Uncle Jim caught him. Slammed him against the wall. When Mark's phone fell, I grabbed it. His passcode was my birthday. The photos made me vomit. Hundreds of pictures of me, sleeping, showering, years worth, dated before we'd ever met. Photos of Harper at school during his business trips. And a folder labeled Plan, filled with pictures of gifts covered in his handwriting. Threats, timelines, a final photo, a life insurance policy on me, $2 million. Beneficiary, Mark. Police came. Mark screamed as they cuffed him. Mom stood frozen. Ashen. I walked to Paige, wrapped my arms around her. I'm sorry. I whispered. I'm so sorry. You didn't know, she said. They made sure you didn't know. I looked at my mother. You had her committed. Your own daughter. To protect what? Your reputation? He was so convincing, Mom whispered. He had evidence. Those were me trying to protect her, Paige shouted. I was documenting him and he made it look like I was the stalker. Get out, I said. Everyone who didn't believe her. Everyone who chose him. Get out of my house. Subscribe if you think I was in right.
I just went on a date with a girl who tried to rob me. 4 months ago, someone broke into my house while I was at the gym. They cleaned me out. Gaming console, TV, some cash from my nightstand, my mom's engagement ring that she left me before she passed from cancer, and my grandfather's vintage Omega watch he wore in Vietnam. Filed a police report, got the usual, "We'll be in touch" speech. Surprise, surprise, never heard back. I was pretty torn up about it for a while. The electronics I could replace, but my mom's ring, that was supposed to go to whoever I married someday. She made me promise I'd give it to the right person when I was sitting next to her hospital bed. My sister kept telling me I needed to stop obsessing and get back out there. So when this girl, Sarah, matched with me on Bumble, I figured I'd give it a shot. Her profile seemed legit, worked as a dental hygienist, had pictures with her dog, actually asked questions instead of just emojis. We decided to meet at this Mexican place near the waterfront called Rosa's. Sarah showed up about 10 minutes late, apologizing about traffic. She was wearing this flowy sundress and had her hair up in a bun. Honestly, she was even prettier than her photos. We ordered drinks and started the usual first date stuff. Her job, my job, embarrassing stories. She was funny, laughed at my jokes, seemed genuinely interested. I was actually thinking this might turn into a second date. Then she reached into her purse to grab her phone, and I saw it. A ring sitting in the open pocket of her bag. Not just any ring. My mom's ring. The one with the 3 tiny emeralds set in a triangle pattern around the diamond. My mom always said it looked like a lucky clover. I'd recognize it anywhere because one of the emeralds was slightly darker than the other two. My whole whole body went cold. I just stared at it while Sarah was talking about some drama at her office. She had no idea I'd checked out completely. My brain was racing. How is this possible? What are the odds? I tried to keep my cool, but my leg was bouncing under the table like crazy. When the waiter came by, Sarah excused herself to the bathroom. The second she was gone, I leaned over and looked closer at her purse. That was definitely my mom's ring. I could see the little engraving inside the band. Forever 1974. I pulled out my phone and called 911, but told them it wasn't an emergency. Explained the situation as fast as I could. Described Sarah, gave them the restaurant address, said I was with someone who had my stolen property. They told me to stay calm and keep her there. When Sarah came back, I had to pretend everything was fine. Asked about her hobbies, nodded along while she talked about hiking and yoga, ordered another round of drinks to buy time. The whole time I kept glancing at her purse sitting right there on the table. About 15 minutes later, 2 cops walked in. They didn't come to our table right away, just positioned themselves near the door and the back exit. I saw one of them look at me, and I gave a slight head nod toward Sarah. We were halfway through our entrees when one of the officers approached. "Excuse me, miss. Can we talk to you outside for a second?" Sarah's face went white. She looked at me, then at the cop, then back at me. "What's this about?" The officer didn't answer, just asked her to step outside. She grabbed her purse and stood up, and that's when the other cop moved in. "We're going to need that bag, ma'am." Sarah tried to act confused, but her hands were shaking as she handed it over. The cop pulled out my mom's ring right there in the restaurant. "Can you tell me where you got this?" Sarah started stammering something about buying it at a pawn shop, but the cop wasn't buying it. They walked her out, while everyone in the restaurant watched. I just sat there, finishing my tacos like I was watching a movie. Turns out Sarah wasn't even her real name. Her actual name was Michelle Brennan, and she'd been part of a burglary ring operating in 3 counties. Her boyfriend would break into houses during the day, and she'd help him fence the stuff online and at pawn shops. They'd been doing it for over a year. The detectives told me they had her boyfriend under surveillance, but couldn't prove anything until they caught her with stolen goods. My mom's ring was the evidence they needed. When they raided the boyfriend's storage unit, they found items from over 40 different burglaries. I got almost everything back. My grandpa's watch, the ring, even my gaming console. Getting my mom's ring back was everything. That little engraving still visible. Forever 1974.
I offered to let my mom live with me, under the exact same terms I lived with her as a teen. I don't know why, in God's good name, my mom thought I would be the one to come to. We don't get along. I went to live with Dad at 16 because she told me she hated me and kicked me out. My older brother, the golden child, I know for a fact, has a spare bedroom she could sleep in now that she's losing the house. My mom's situation is entirely her own fault as well, which makes this all the more annoying. She and my stepdad bought a 7-bedroom house 10 years ago, right after she left her job of 20 years to work at some stupid startup that was out of business only 3 years later. My stepdad spent the last years of his miserable life bedbound because he ignored every doctor telling him to stop shoving his face full of food every waking moment of the day. So he passed away 500 pounds and in misery. I was more than fine with this, by the way. Well, when he passed early this year, it pretty much drained the last of the money my dummy of a mother had remaining, and now the bank's taking the house back. So she shows up at my door for some reason, after mistreating me since I was a kid and ignoring me unless she wanted something since she married that thankfully dead land whale. She didn't even call first, just showed up with 2 suitcases like I owed her something, started crying about how hard her life has been and how she has nowhere else to go. I asked her why she didn't go to my brother's place. She said he told her his wife wouldn't allow it. Funny how the golden child gets to say no without being guilted. But here she was on my doorstep expecting me to fix her mess. She had the nerve to ask to live with me. It's only me and my husband in our 2-bedroom house. Sure, but that spare bedroom is his office. The basement's my art studio. And the couch in front of the fireplace is for our lovely cats. There is no room for the wicked hag anywhere in this house, but I knew this opportunity would never come again. So I told her she could live with us if and only if she decided to follow the house rules. All electronics were to be turned off by 6 p.m. If she was caught with any after that, they would be taken away and sold at the next yard sale. Bedtime was 7:30. If I caught her up, I would take away all of her clothing for the week. She may only shower for 5 minutes once every 3 days. All chores must be done the moment she wakes up. If I roll out of bed and they are not, she will not be getting meals for the day. She must make sure she is alert at all times. If I and hubby need something done, it is to be done at that moment, or else she will lose her bedding privileges for the night. She will be in charge of cooking 1 meal each day, but I choose. If it is not made to my liking, she will not be allowed to join us, and instead will eat the cheapest frozen meal available. I will be reading all her mail, text messages, and emails. I will give her the ones I deem acceptable communication under my roof. Her car will be my own personal travel car. She will also drive me wherever I want. She will still have to pay for gas. And last but not least, if at any point she displeases me, I will be calling my brother up to pick her up from a nearby gas station. I will get to choose what she takes to put in a torn-up backpack before dropping her off without looking back. She called me a monster, told me these conditions were inhuman, and asked if I was insane. These were the exact conditions I lived under for 4 years as a teenager. The exact conditions she tormented me with for 4 years until she finally let me go live with the one parent that loved me. And these would be the conditions she would suffer under if she dared to ask me to home her worthless, jokes-taking soul. I don't know where she went after she stormed out of my house. I hope she finds a nice park bench to stay on.
My parents text me, skip Christmas this year, we want peace. I replied, perfect, but I did this instead. When the message popped up, I was stirring hot cocoa for my 2 kids. My mom's words glowed on the screen. Skip Christmas this year, Daniel. We just want peace for once. I stared at it for a long time. For 12 years, I'd hosted Christmas Eve at my place in Portland. My tiny craftsman house had seen turkeys bigger than the oven, lights tangled across the porch, and neighbors packed shoulder to shoulder. It wasn't fancy, but people always said it felt magical. This year, my younger brother Ryan was newly engaged. Apparently, peace meant everyone cramming into his fiance's parents' condo instead of the tradition I'd carried. I typed back one word. Perfect. My phone buzzed again instantly. Don't be dramatic, Danny. You know how intense you get. Emily wants something simple this year. Intense. That's what they always called me. When I refinished my basement into a playroom by hand. Intense. When I worked overtime to buy a $300 tree so the kids could have something beautiful after my divorce. Intense. But while they dismissed me, I'd been quietly planning something else. Something they had no idea about. 3 days later, I met with Alicia, the director of a shelter for teens just outside the city. Are you sure? She asked, eyes wide. Hosting 40 kids here on Christmas Eve. It's a lot. I smiled. A lot is my specialty. That same afternoon, a producer from a local news station confirmed they'd be covering the event. Word had spread after I partnered with restaurants who donated trays of food worth more than $5,000. Meanwhile, my parents kept texting. So, what are your plans, Daniel? Are you traveling? Don't be stubborn. It's just 1 year at Ryan's. I let the phone go dark. By December 20th, my little house had transformed. Every room had a theme. The living room became a snow forest, with papier-mâché owls perched in branches. The kitchen turned into a cookie workshop. Upstairs, I set up donated gifts. Hoodies, headphones, even a few used iPhones, each wrapped with a name tag. Alicia dropped by with a clipboard. You're really doing this, she whispered, almost teary. Doing what my family wouldn't, I replied. On Christmas Eve, snow dusted the street right as the kids arrived in 2 vans. The moment they walked in, their jaws dropped. One boy pointed at the ceiling lights and said, "It looks like the movies." My stomach knotted with nerves, but when they started laughing, decorating cookies, tearing into board games, I felt something loosen inside me. Around 7:15 p.m., my phone rang. It was my mom. I almost ignored it, but answered. "Danny, what is going on?" "There's an article. Local dad creates Christmas wonderland for homeless teens. Is this you?" "Yes, Mom," I said evenly, watching a girl in a red hoodie hang an ornament she'd made. "While you wanted peace, these kids needed Christmas." There was silence. Then my dad's gruff voice in the background. "Son, your brother's upset. People online are talking about you, not him and Emily." I laughed bitterly. "Tell him not everything is about attention. Some of us do this because it matters." The climax came at 8 p.m. A reporter filmed live as the kids opened their personalized gifts. One boy named Jordan unwrapped a guitar and immediately started strumming. Another girl clutched a winter coat like it was treasure. My hand shook as I took it in. For once, my intensity had meaning. Halfway through the night, Ryan showed up at my door, snow on his shoulders. He looked around, stunned. "This is insane," he muttered. "Emily's parents' condo has nothing on this." I handed him a mug of cocoa. "Simple was what you wanted. This is what I needed." He had no response. Christmas morning, while my family sat in that cramped condo, my house was still buzzing with joy. Later, my mom texted again. "Maybe we were wrong. Can we come next year?" I stared at the screen, then at the guitar chords echoing from Jordan's room. "Sorry," I typed back. "Next year's already booked. Subscribe if you think I did the right thing."
My family said I was too weird for their events, so I left them off my wedding guest list. They lost it online. My brother tried to teach me a lesson by breaking into my house, and the judge taught him a real one. At 14, my parents threw a barbecue for my brother Andrew's game win. Nobody mentioned it was my birthday until Mom said, "Oh, right. Happy birthday, Aaron," while clearing plates. That's when I learned being quiet in a loud family makes you invisible. By my 20s, they'd stopped pretending. Monica's wedding invitation arrived for everyone except me. When I called, she said, "You'd be uncomfortable anyway." "Not really your scene," Mom agreed. "She's the bride. Her call." I didn't go. I stayed home scrolling through photos of everyone smiling. Nobody noticed I wasn't there. Then came Andrew's promotion dinner. I found out from Facebook. Balloons, cake, my whole extended family celebrating at a restaurant. When I called Mom, she sighed. It was last minute. You know how you get around crowds. At Thanksgiving that year, I showed up with pie. The table was set for 8. All seats taken. Mom looked around like she just noticed. "There's a folding chair in the garage. You can grab that." I ate in the corner with a plastic plate on my lap, while they passed dishes around me. Monica laughed and said, "Aaron, you wouldn't get it. It's an inside joke." Later, I heard Mom tell Andrew she'd send him the good ones. You know, the ones with everyone. I realized I could disappear entirely and nothing would change. The breaking point was Andrew's work event. Mom called. "The videographer canceled. You've got that nice camera, right?" I thought she wanted me there as family. I was wrong. I spent 3 hours filming, while Andrew's coworkers called me the camera guy. When Andrew gave his speech about family values, he thanked everyone but me. At dinner, Mom brought me a plate of half-picked leftovers. "You did such a good job. You'll send the files tomorrow, right?" I drove home and deleted everything. That's when I met Luna. She ran an animal shelter event I was filming. When I mentioned my family once, she just said, "Sounds like they don't get you," and left it at that. No prying, no judgment. 2 years later, we got engaged. While planning the wedding, Luna asked, "What about your family?" "No," I said. "I don't want them there." She nodded. "Good. I want people who actually love you." We sent invites to friends, co-workers, neighbors, people who showed up when it mattered. My family found out through a cousin's Instagram post. Mom texted, "When are you sending our invites?" "There aren't any," I replied. The group chat exploded. Mom wrote paragraphs about family unity. Monica said I was embarrassing the family name. Dad called me ungrateful. Andrew posted, "Guess he finally found someone as cold as he is." I muted the chat. Mom left a voicemail. "You're letting Luna poison you against us. We deserve to be part of your big day." Monica took to Facebook with vague posts about some people forgetting who raised them. The post got dozens of sympathy comments until someone
replied, "Didn't you not invite him to your wedding?" The comments turned. Their public image started cracking. Our wedding was perfect. Small outdoor venue, clear skies, people who genuinely smiled. During the reception, my coworker showed me Facebook. My family was having a public meltdown. I laughed and put my phone away. 3 days later, Luna and I were at a cabin 2 hours away. At 2 a.m., my phone buzzed. Motion detected. Living room. I opened the security camera feed. Andrew was inside our house. I hit the panic button. The alarm shrieked through the speakers. On camera, Andrew spun around, trying to cover his face. Police arrived 8 minutes later. Andrew was still there when they pulled up. The officer called me the next day. "Your brother was arrested for attempted burglary. He admitted your father offered him money to talk some sense into you." We found the texts. Andrew took a plea deal. Community service, probation, GPS monitoring. Dad was charged with aiding and abetting. Both got criminal records. The court documents became public record. A neighbor posted screenshots in our community group. Mom's sympathy posts stopped. Monica deleted her Facebook. Andrew moved out of state. 3 months later, we hosted a barbecue. The people who'd been there for us showed up, laughing, eating, actually caring. One friend lifted a beer to new beginnings. I looked around at lights strung across our fence, at people who chose to be there. Later, cleaning up, Luna asked, "Do you ever think about them?" "Not really," I said. "Sometimes I wonder if they think about what they lost." She smiled. "They probably don't get it." "Yeah," I said, "but I do." For the first time, the word family didn't feel heavy. I built mine from scratch, and nobody was taking it away again.
My family sent a group message. "We've talked, and we think it's best if you step away for now." No explanation, no gratitude, just a dismissal. I replied, "Understood. I'll respect that, and step away from the family entirely. Take care." That night, at 3:17 a.m., I closed their $87,000 fund with a single click. By sunrise, my phone had 89 missed calls. It was Thursday, 7:14 p.m. I'd just gotten home when my phone lit up. Group message. "Mom, Dad, Aunt Carol, even Uncle Jim. We've discussed it, and we think it's best if you step away from the family for now. Rebecca needs space. We all do." Aunt Carol added a thumbs up emoji within 30 seconds. "Uncle Jim, this is hard but necessary." Dad stayed silent. I typed back, "Understood. I'll respect that and step away from the family entirely. Take care." That night, at 3 a.m., lying there staring at my ceiling, something clicked. They wanted me gone, I'd leave completely. I grabbed my laptop and logged into the joint account I'd been managing for 5 years, the one that paid Mom's insulin, Dad's mortgage, Rebecca's rent. I canceled my automatic $1,500 contribution, transferred the $3,247 balance to my account, closed it entirely. 10 minutes to end 5 years of financial responsibility. My phone exploded at sunrise. 89 missed calls by 8 a.m. Dad's voicemail. "The mortgage bounced. Mom's prescription failed. What happened, Rebecca?" "My rent check bounced. My landlord is threatening eviction." "Mom, the pharmacy says there's no money for my insulin." I texted the group, "I'm honoring your decision to step away." 5 years earlier, Rebecca was hospitalized for severe depression. Dad called me crying at 9 p.m. They won't admit her without upfront payment. I was 27, making $85,000 as a consultant. That night, I transferred $15,000, my entire emergency fund, to the treatment center. Rebecca stabilized after 3 months. Nobody mentioned I'd made it possible, but it didn't stop. Mom's diabetes, Dad's hours cut, Rebecca behind on rent. Every crisis, they called me. Dad proposed, "Could you help us set up a family emergency fund?" I was single, working 80-hour weeks, so I set up an account and started routing everything through it. My life became quiet sacrifices. I downgraded my apartment, stopped vacations, ate ramen while funding their restaurant meals. None of them ever asked how I was doing. By year 3, $1,800 monthly, plus random emergencies up to $2,000. I started keeping a spreadsheet to understand where my money was going. Last month, Rebecca texted the family group, "Could the fund cover a wellness retreat in Colorado? $3,200. My therapist thinks it would help." "Dad, sounds like something you really need." "Mom, whatever helps you heal." They were discussing $3,000 of my money, like it was communal property. Not an emergency, a vacation. 2 nights before that group message, we had our monthly video call. I just landed a Fortune 500 client, career-defining work. "Guys, I've got amazing news!" Dad cut me off. "Can we discuss Rebecca's housing first?" 45 minutes discussing apartments 800 to 1,200 more than her current studio. When I mentioned my work news, "Oh, that's nice, honey." Then back to Rebecca. I said calmly, "Maybe it's time someone else stepped up." Ice cold silence. "Mom, you're the only one who's really stable right now." Rebecca, crying, "I can't believe you're making this about money when I'm talking about my safety." That call was a setup. They decided to cut me out so they could approve Rebecca's retreat without my input. After I closed the account, they called an emergency Zoom. Mom pale, Dad pacing, Rebecca crying, Aunt Carol in pearls. "Why did you abandon us?" Rebecca started. "You told me to step away. I'm respecting it." "We didn't mean financially," Mom said. "You said step away from the family. The money was part of my involvement." Rebecca, "After everything you've done for us, you mean after I paid your rent, funded your treatment, and got treated like garbage for saying no to a wellness retreat?" Silence. "When's the last time any of you asked how I was doing?" I shared my screen, showed them the spreadsheet. 5 years, every payment, $87,421.13. Dad's mouth hung open. "You've been keeping tabs." Mom whispered. "No, tracking my expenses, understanding why I can't afford vacations." Aunt Carol, $87,000. "How?" "15K for Rebecca's treatment, 8K for Dad's mortgage, 12K for Mom's medical." The list goes on. "Dad, we're family. You can't put a price tag on that." "You're right, but this hasn't been helping. It's been enabling." 10 days later, certified mail arrived. Bank fraud investigation. Someone applied for an $80,000 loan using my name, social security number, and the fund's tax ID. Business. Rebecca Grace Recovery Services, LLC. Complete fiction. Mom and Dad were co-signers. The step away message was a setup. Cut me from discussions. Keep my name attached. Take the money. Let me deal with consequences. When investigators contacted them, Dad called crying. "We were desperate. We thought we'd pay it back before you found out. You forged my signature." That's identity theft. That was our last conversation. It's been a year since I closed that account.
My parents abandoned me at age 8 to care for my dying sister. 9 years later, they showed up demanding I fix her life. I was 8 when my parents called a family meeting. My sister Elsa, just turned 6, had been diagnosed with a rare heart condition. She needed round-the-clock care, multiple surgeries, constant monitoring. Mom's voice shook as she explained it. "You'll stay with Grandma Rose for a while, just until Elsa's stable." That while turned into 9 years. The drive to Grandma's was 5 hours. I sat in the back, clutching my backpack and a stuffed bear. Dad's jaw was tight. Mom stared out the window. Nobody spoke. When we pulled up, Grandma was waiting on the porch. Small woman, silver hair, flour on her apron. She pulled me into a hug that smelled like cinnamon. My parents left before dinner. Grandma Rose raised me. Every morning she made breakfast. Every night she asked about my day and actually listened. She showed up to every soccer game, every school play, every awards ceremony. My parents called twice a month, always speakerphone. Always about Elsa's surgery count, Elsa's medication, Elsa's progress. Never once asked if I'd made friends or how school was. I was 10 when I won the regional spelling bee. Brought home the trophy during one of their quarterly visits. Set it on the table during dinner. Dad glanced at it. That's great, sport. Then immediately asked Grandma if she'd sent the check they'd requested. Grandma saw my face. Later that night, she took me to the diner. Made me order the biggest sundae they had. She put that trophy on her mantle between photos of my grandfather. Told everyone at church about it for months. That's when I learned that love is shown, not stated. Elsa's condition stabilized when I was 12. I thought they'd come get me. They didn't. We need to focus on her recovery, Dad explained during one of those phone calls. Can't disrupt her routine. I asked Grandma why I couldn't come home. She just held me and said, "Baby, you are home." When I was 15, Elsa had a relapse. My parents called Grandma's landline. Didn't ask for me. I was sitting right there doing homework. Grandma covered the receiver. Want to talk to them? I shook my head and went back to my math. Elsa got her final clearance at 16. My parents showed up with her for Thanksgiving. She was 14 now. We'd been apart so long she called me by my full name, not the nickname she'd used as a toddler. Over pie, Dad announced they wanted me back home for senior year. Get to know your sister again, Mom added. I can think about it, I said. Think about what? You're our son, Dad snapped. Grandma's voice cut through. The boy stays here till graduation. They left, angry. I got a full ride to state. Engineering program. When I told my parents, Mom cried. Not happy tears. We've missed so much time with you already. You can commute from home. I've signed the lease near campus already. Dad's voice went cold. That's not your decision to make. Actually, I'm 18. It is. I hung up. Graduation day. Grandma sat front row. My parents didn't come. Said Elsa had a doctor's appointment. She'd been cleared for 2 years. I graduated college, got hired at a tech firm, bought a small house. Then 3 months ago, Mom called. Elsa's struggling. She dropped out of college. She's depressed. Lost. We thought you could help. Financially and emotionally. You're her brother. I laughed. We're strangers, but she looks up to you. She doesn't know me. That's the point. You abandoned me for 9 years, Mom. We saved her life, and I'm glad she's alive, but that doesn't create a debt I owe. Dad grabbed the phone. You're being selfish and cruel. No, I'm being honest. You made your choice. Click. 2 weeks later, they showed up at my house. I opened the door to all 3 of them. Dad pushed past me. Elsa needs $40,000 for a program that'll help her. You're going to pay for it. No, I'm not. She's your sister. She's a person you chose over me every single day for 9 years. Mom started crying. How can you be so heartless? She almost died. Heartless is dropping your 8-year-old off and visiting 4 times a year. We didn't have a choice. You had choices. You chose her medical team over my childhood. You chose her recovery over my existence. Elsa spoke for the first time. I just want a relationship. You want a relationship and $40,000. That's a transaction, not family. Dad stepped closer. We sacrificed everything for her. Great. I'm sure that's very fulfilling for you both. Now get out. We need you to. I pulled out my phone. You have 90 seconds before I call the cops for trespassing. They didn't move. I started dialing. Dad's voice went hard. You'll regret this. When you need family, we won't be there. I looked him dead in the eye. You've never been there. That's the whole point. I held the door open. 70 seconds. They left.
My parents gave my college fund to my stepbrother for his music career. 10 years later, I'm a doctor. They showed up asking for help with medical bills. I handed them his demo CD. My stepdad, Gary, married my mom when I was 12, bringing his 15-year-old son, Trevor, a wannabe theater star with decent pipes and zero work ethic. Kid would literally break into song during dinner. Not kidding. We'd be discussing groceries and he'd belt out Wicked like we were his captive audience. The favoritism was cartoonish. I won first place at Regional Science Olympiad. Gary asked if we could leave early because Trevor had rehearsal. My straight A's in AP chemistry got, that's nice. Trevor's community theater callback got printed and refrigerator mounted. I worked 3 shifts weekly at the drugstore, saving every dollar. Plus, I had my real dad's college fund, $85,000 he'd set up before dying in a car accident when I was 8. Not Harvard money, but enough to get through undergrad debt-free and start medical school strong. Spring of senior year, Mom knocked with that fake sweet voice she used for bad news. We're redirecting your college fund toward Trevor's career development. My stomach dropped. What? Trevor got into that Juilliard summer program, then the year-long acting conservatory in New York. This is his shot, Sarah. That's my college fund. Dad left that for my education. Gary appeared in the doorway. You can take out student loans like everyone else. Character building. Trevor's window is closing. The decision's already made, Gary said. We've started the transfer. Trevor's program starts in June. They'd already moved my money before telling me. Trevor's response? When I make it big, I'll help pay for your medical school. Think of it as an investment using my dead father's money. I cobbled together financial aid covering 60% of costs. The rest came from working nights at a 24-hour diner, 10 p.m. to 6 a.m., 3 nights weekly. I lived on vending machine coffee and day-old muffins while Trevor posted Instagram stories from trendy Manhattan cafes. My freshman year, classes, studying, work, 4 hours sleep, repeat. Meanwhile, $85,000 of my inheritance funded Trevor's artistic journey. I graduated summa cum laude in biochemistry. Trevor moved back home after 3 years, 23, broke, living in his childhood bedroom. Gary called it regrouping. I called it $85,000 with nothing to show except stories about auditions he didn't book. Medical school was harder. While classmates focused on studies, I worked weekends as a medical scribe, tutored undergrads, did research for faculty, graduated with $250,000 in loans. Trevor got laid off from the music store, started working part-time at Guitar Center, still lived at home, still pursuing his dreams at 31. Then Mom called, crying. Gary had a heart attack, major one. He needs surgery, multiple bypasses. The bills are $200,000. Insurance covers maybe 40%. We thought maybe since you're a doctor now, there it was. Help them figure out payment plans with the money I earned working through medical school while you funded Trevor's Manhattan adventure. We don't know what to do. I drove to the house next morning. Trevor answered at 11 a.m. looking like he'd just woken up. What are you doing to help? I asked. He looked confused. I'm working at Guitar Center. I don't have medical bill money. You're 31. You've lived here rent-free for years. They supported your career for over a decade. What happened to the $85,000? That was years ago. It went to my training, living expenses, networking, and what return did they get on that investment? Silence. I pulled out a CD, professionally manufactured with glossy artwork. His demo from 2018 that cost $3,000 of my college fund to produce. I bought this off eBay. Figured it was the least I could do since I helped pay for it. I set it on the coffee table. Sarah, wait, are you going to help with Gary's bills? I'm going to help exactly as much as this family helped me through medical school. You should probably start checking couch cushions for spare change. Mom called that evening. Gary's surgery went well, but the bills are mounting. Did you talk to Trevor? I did. Interesting conversation. Sarah, please.
This is life or death. Mom, here's what you're going to do. Talk to the hospital's financial counselor. Apply for charity care programs. Trevor's going to get a second job and contribute to household expenses. But Trevor's career is working retail part-time. He's 31. Time to be realistic. You could just help us. You make good money now. You're right. I make good money because I worked my ass off through medical school without family support. I graduated with $250,000 in debt that you gave to fund Trevor's fantasy. We did what we thought was best. You did what was convenient for Gary and Trevor. You sacrificed my future for his pipe dream. So you won't help. I'm giving you the same thing you gave me when I needed support for my education. Advice to figure it out on your own. I hung up and blocked their numbers. My parents spent my entire childhood telling me to be more like my brother. So when they asked me for money to bail him out, I showed them exactly how much being like him would have cost me. Growing up, everything was about my brother Kyle. He was the star quarterback, the popular kid, the one who could do no wrong. I was the quiet one who got straight A's and worked at the grocery store. Kyle got a new truck for his 16th birthday. I got a card that said, maybe next year. Kyle's college tuition at state, fully paid by our parents. My community college, you'll have to take out loans. We can't afford 2 kids in school. When Kyle got his first apartment, they bought him furniture, covered deposits, paid his first 3 months rent. When I moved out, my dad handed me $100. I'm 32 now. Kyle is 35. I'm a physical therapist making $71,000 a year. Kyle has had 7 jobs in 10 years and sells supplements on Instagram. Last month, my mom called. Sweetie, we need to talk about Kyle. He's in some financial trouble. He owes some people money, around $50,000. Credit cards, personal loans, some investors. I waited. Your father and I are retired. We don't have that kind of cash. We were hoping you could help. You want me to give Kyle $50,000? Not give, loan. He'll pay you back when he gets back on his feet. Mom, I don't have $50,000. But you have a good job. You could take out a loan or use your savings. Why would I do that? Her voice got sharp. Because he's your brother. Because family helps family. Where was that energy when I needed help with college? That's different. You were always so independent. Kyle needs more support. Kyle is 35 years old. I told her I'd think about it. Then I did something else. I went through every family photo album, every birthday, every Christmas. I made a list of every dollar my parents spent on Kyle versus me. Kyle's 16th birthday truck, $18,000. My card, $0. Kyle's college tuition, $87,000. My community college, $0 from them. Kyle's apartment setup, $6,500. My move-out gift, $100. Kyle's 3 failed business ventures they invested in, $34,000. Down payment on Kyle's condo he lost to foreclosure, $40,000. His DUI lawyer, $8,500. The list went on. Total spent on Kyle over 35 years, $312,000. Total spent on me, $24,000. Difference, $288,000. I made a spreadsheet, professional, itemized, with notes and dates. Added photos from albums showing Kyle's truck, his furniture, his college acceptance letter stamped, paid in full. Then I made a second sheet. Every achievement of mine they'd missed for Kyle. My college graduation. They skipped it for Kyle's playoff game. My white coat ceremony for PT school. They couldn't make it because Kyle needed help moving. My wedding. They left early because Kyle had a flat tire. I sent both spreadsheets to my parents. You asked me to help Kyle because family helps family. Here's a detailed accounting of how our family has helped each of us. I'm willing to loan Kyle money under one condition. You match every dollar I give him, and you pay me back the $288,000 difference you invested in him over me. Otherwise, he can figure it out the same way I've had to my entire life. My dad called within 10 minutes. This is insulting. Your best for Kyle was $312,000. Your best for me was $24,000. I'm just showing you the math. We gave you what you needed. Kyle needed more help. And now you're asking me to continue that pattern by giving him $50,000 of my money while you give nothing. You're being selfish. I'm being exactly as selfish as you taught me to be. You told me to be more like Kyle my entire life. Well, if I'd been like him, I'd be $50,000 in debt with no job. I'm successful because I'm nothing like him. Silence. Here's my offer. I'll loan Kyle $10,000. You loan him $10,000. He figures out the other $30,000 himself. The loan comes with a payment plan, interest, and a signed contract. The same terms a bank would give him. That's not how family works. It's exactly how family worked when I needed college money. My loans are finally paid off, by the way. Took 12 years. My mom called the next day. We'll loan Kyle $10,000 if you do the same. Great. I'll draft a contract. He signs it. You both witness it. A contract? He's your brother. A contract or no deal. I drafted a proper loan agreement. $10,000 principal. 5% interest. $250 monthly payments for 4 years. Missed payments mean immediate full balance due. Kyle signed it. So did my parents as witnesses. That was 4 months ago. Kyle made one payment of $250. Then nothing. I sent a formal payment reminder. He texted, "Come on, man. Family doesn't charge family interest." I replied with a photo of my final student loan payment receipt. $250 by Friday, or the full balance is due per the contract. My parents called asking me to be reasonable. I reminded them about the $288,000 gap. They haven't called back.
My parents text me, "Skip Christmas this year. We want peace." I replied, "Perfect." But I did this instead. When the message popped up, I was stirring hot cocoa for my 2 kids. My mom's words glowed on the screen. "Skip Christmas this year, Daniel. We just want peace for once." I stared at it for a long time. For 12 years, I'd hosted Christmas Eve at my place in Portland. My tiny craftsman house had seen turkeys bigger than the oven, lights tangled across the porch, and neighbors packed shoulder to shoulder. It wasn't fancy, but people always said it felt magical. This year, my younger brother Ryan was newly engaged. Apparently, peace meant everyone cramming into his fiance's parents' condo instead of the tradition I'd carried. I typed back one word. Perfect. My phone buzzed again instantly. "Don't be dramatic, Danny. You know how intense you get. Emily wants something simple this year. Intense." That's what they always called me. When I refinished my basement into a playroom by hand. Intense. When I worked overtime to buy a $300 tree so the kids could have something beautiful after my divorce. Intense. But while they dismissed me, I'd been quietly planning something else. Something they had no idea about. 3 days later, I met with Alicia, the director of a shelter for teens just outside the city. "Are you sure?" she asked, eyes wide. "Hosting 40 kids here on Christmas Eve. It's a lot." I smiled. A lot is my specialty. That same afternoon, a producer from a local news station confirmed they'd be covering the event. Word had spread after I partnered with restaurants who donated trays of food worth more than $5,000. Meanwhile, my parents kept texting. "So, what are your plans, Daniel? Are you traveling? Don't be stubborn. It's just 1 year at Ryan's." I let the phone go dark. By December 20th, my little house had transformed. Every room had a theme. The living room became a snow forest, with papier-mâché owls perched in branches. The kitchen turned into a cookie workshop. Upstairs, I set up donated gifts. Hoodies, headphones, even a few used iPhones.
each wrapped with a name tag. Alicia dropped by with a clipboard. "You're really doing this," she whispered, almost teary. "Doing what my family wouldn't," I replied. On Christmas Eve, snow dusted the street right as the kids arrived in 2 vans. The moment they walked in, their jaws dropped. One boy pointed at the ceiling lights and said, "It looks like the movies." My stomach knotted with nerves, but when they started laughing, decorating cookies, tearing into board games, I felt something loosen inside me. Around 7:15 p.m., my phone rang. It was my mom. I almost ignored it, but answered. "Danny, what is going on?" "There's an article. Local dad creates Christmas wonderland for homeless teens. Is this you?" "Yes, Mom," I said evenly, watching a girl in a red hoodie hang an ornament she'd made. "While you wanted peace, these kids needed Christmas." There was silence. Then my dad's gruff voice in the background. "Son, your brother's upset. People online are talking about you, not him and Emily." I laughed bitterly. "Tell him not everything is about attention. Some of us do this because it matters." The climax came at 8 p.m. A reporter filmed live as the kids opened their personalized gifts. One boy named Jordan unwrapped a guitar and immediately started strumming. Another girl clutched a winter coat like it was treasure. My hand shook as I took it in. For once, my intensity had meaning. Halfway through the night, Ryan showed up at my door, snow on his shoulders. He looked around, stunned. "This is insane," he muttered. "Emily's parents' condo has nothing on this." I handed him a mug of cocoa. "Simple was what you wanted. This is what I needed." He had no response. Christmas morning, while my family sat in that cramped condo, my house was still buzzing with joy. Later, my mom texted again. "Maybe we were wrong. Can we come next year?" I stared at the screen, then at the guitar chords echoing from Jordan's room. "Sorry," I typed back. "Next year's already booked. Subscribe if you think I did the right thing." My sister smashed a champagne bottle over my head at her engagement party because I wouldn't give her my inheritance. She told everyone I attacked her first, but a police captain standing right behind me had seen everything. I'm 32, and until last year, I thought every family had a martyr. Someone who gave and gave while everyone else took. That was me. I worked 2 jobs through college while my younger sister Vanessa lived in our parents' guest house until she was 28. When our grandmother passed and left me her estate, worth $400,000, my parents were thrilled. For Vanessa. Vanessa's 29, magnetic. The kind of person who makes her problems everyone's emergency. When she got engaged to Brett, a tech startup founder with more pitch decks than profits, the demands started immediately. At our first family dinner after the proposal, she slid a folder across the table. "I've been looking at venues," she said. "The Ashford estate is perfect. It's $85,000 for the weekend." I congratulated her. She waited. "So you'll help, right? Grandma would have wanted you to." I said. "I couldn't." My mom's face fell. "It's just money, Riley. Vanessa only gets engaged once." I offered $5,000 as a gift. Vanessa laughed. "That won't even cover flowers." For months, it escalated. Texts about how Brett's family was judging our family for being cheap. My dad calling to say, "Your sister's really struggling. You're sitting on all that money." I held firm. The inheritance was for my future. Maybe a house. Maybe starting my own business. 3 weeks before the engagement party, Vanessa sent a contract. An actual legal document requesting $120,000 as an advance on future inheritance. When I called her, she was ready. "Brett's investors will ghost him if we look poor at this party. You're ruining my life." The morning of the party, I got a text from my accountant. "Your sister listed you as a co-signer on a $50,000 event loan. Call me." My blood froze. I drove straight to the venue. Vanessa was directing setup. Ice sculptures and designer florals everywhere. When she saw me, she didn't flinch. "It's fine," she said. "You'll just pay it back from the inheritance. You forged my signature." She shrugged. "You'd have said no. Brett needs this to look successful." I told the loan company I hadn't signed anything. They put a hold on the funds. Vanessa's face went white. "You can't do this to me." At the party, I stayed near the exit. My parents wouldn't look at me. Then Vanessa's toast. "Before Brett says anything, I need to address something." The room quieted. "My sister Riley inherited money from our grandmother. Our grandmother, who raised both of us." She paused. "Riley refused to help pay for tonight. Everything you see Brett and I scraped together alone." People whispered. My face burned. I stood up. "That's not true." Vanessa's voice shook. "You're really going to do this here?" I stepped toward her. "You forged my name on a loan." She grabbed a champagne bottle from the nearest table. "Stay away from me!" Before I could react, she swung. The bottle hit my temple. The room spun. I heard gasps. Then Vanessa screamed, "She attacked me! You all saw it!" A man's voice cut through the chaos. "No, she didn't." An older man in a dark suit stepped forward from directly behind me. "Ma'am, I'm Captain Ross Delancey, and I watched you assault your sister with a weapon." The room went silent. Vanessa's mouth opened. She was standing still," he said. "You struck her with a bottle. That's aggravated assault." Brett tried to intervene. "This is a misunderstanding." Captain Delancey held up a hand. "I'm off duty, but I'm calling this in." Vanessa started crying. My mom rushed over. "Please, this is family business." The captain looked at me. "Ma'am, you're bleeding. Do you want to press charges?" I touched my head. Blood on my fingers. I looked at Vanessa. She'd tried to frame me. I nodded. 6 months later, Vanessa's lawyer tried to sue me for emotional distress and the cost of canceling the party. Her lawyer dropped the case when my attorney submitted the forgery evidence and the police report. Then I got a call from Brett. "Vanessa's struggling," he said. "Could you just give her $20,000 to help settle things?" I told him I'd think about it. Instead, I called my accountant. Turns out Vanessa had taken $30,000 from our parents' retirement fund months earlier, telling them it was a guaranteed investment with Brett's company. I quietly paid my parents back and showed them the bank records. Brett left her 2 weeks later. Vanessa moved back to our parents' guest house.
My stepson has a girl upstairs in his room that stayed the night, and my wife doesn't know yet. I'm curious about how he plans to smuggle her out now that the whole family is awake. She's still up there. My wife has gone into full Saturday house cleaning mode, oblivious. She hasn't noticed the cute white shoes sitting by the front door. No one in this house would own all white shoes. Here's the problem. There's a side door attached to the kitchen, right at the bottom of the stairs. Perfect escape route. But those damn shoes are on the opposite side of the house. People keep asking why I don't just help the kid out. He's an 18-year-old grown man. We live and die by our choices. My wife finishes the bathroom and moves on to the kitchen. The kitchen, at the bottom of the stairs. His only exit is now blocked by a woman with a mop and a mission. Then my heart nearly stops. My wife pauses her mopping and tilts her head toward the front door. She's looking directly at the shoe area. I hold my breath. She takes 3 steps toward them. "Did you leave your gym shoes out?" she calls to me. "What shoes?" She squints at them. "These white ones by the door. Never seen them before. Maybe from the party last week?" She shrugs and goes back to mopping. Crisis averted. But now I'm sweating more than the kid upstairs. 20 minutes pass. Then I hear footsteps above us. Light footsteps. Moving toward the stairs. No, not now. My wife is standing at the bottom of the staircase, wiping down the banister. The footsteps stop. Smart girl. She heard the cleaning sounds. They're retreating. But my wife heard them too. She looks up at the ceiling, then at me. "Is Tyler awake? I should tell him to bring down his laundry." "She's going to go up there." "I'll tell him," I say, way too quickly. "You focus on cleaning." She gives me a suspicious look. I never volunteer for laundry duty. In 15 years of marriage, I have actively avoided anything laundry-related. "Since when do you care about laundry? I'm turning over a new leaf. Go finish the kitchen." She doesn't buy it, but she's too deep in cleaning mode to argue. I text my stepson, "Your mom almost came up. Stay quiet." She's in the kitchen. No response. Then the doorbell rings. Our neighbor asking to borrow a ladder. They stand at the front door chatting for 10 minutes. 10 agonizing minutes where my wife is 3 feet away from those white shoes. Mrs. Patterson actually looks down. "Oh, cute sneakers. Are those yours?" My wife glances down, looks at the shoes. "No, someone must have left them from that graduation party." The graduation party was 6 weeks ago, but Mrs. Patterson doesn't question it. Then my wife announces she's going to vacuum upstairs. I jump up so fast I knock over my coffee. "I'll do it!" She looks at me like I've lost my mind. "You want to vacuum?" "Exercise. Doctor said I need more movement." She crosses her arms. "What is going on with you today?" "Nothing. Can't a husband help?" She stares at me for a long moment. "Fine. I'll finish down here first." I text Tyler, "Do not open your door." He responds, thumbs up, 1 emoji. His life is on the line and he sends me a thumbs up. Then it happens. She came downstairs to use the bathroom. Bold move. I recognize her immediately. One of his closest friends. Been over dozens of times. My wife might believe it's just a friendly sleepover. She was lucky enough to sleep through what was clearly not a friendly sleepover at 4 a.m. I don't even know if my wife saw her. She said nothing. Then this kid pulls the smoothest move I've ever seen. He casually strolls downstairs, grabs those white shoes like it's the most natural thing in the world, and walks right back upstairs, past me the whole way. I shot him a little wink. My wife went to the bedroom to lie down and read. They hit the side door and they're gone. Young love finds a way.
My teacher, who called me stupid in HS, was a patient of mine. My biology teacher in high school absolutely hated me. I was a freshman who had just moved from the north to the south, going through my parents' divorce, with 0 friends in a place where everyone treated me badly, just because I looked different. I wasn't on drugs. I wasn't stupid. I was just a tired, sleepless, depressed teenager trying to survive. But Mrs. Patterson decided I was her target from day one. She accused me of being on drugs when I had never even seen drugs in my life. I had just finished 8th grade. She told me I was academically challenged, even though I'd been tested in middle school and had no disabilities. She just saw a quiet kid who was struggling and decided to make it worse. The moment I'll never forget happened during class when no one was raising their hand to answer her question. She kept pushing, getting frustrated that nobody would participate. Finally, I raised my hand, got the answer right. Her response? "Wow, guys, even Jane got this right. You all should have known the answer." Even, like I was the lowest bar possible. The whole class laughed. I wanted to disappear into my seat. She called me stupid in front of everyone more than once. Made me believe that maybe I really was dumb. I did terrible academically that year. Had to take summer school. But the worst part came at the end of freshman year. Parent-teacher conferences. Mrs. Patterson sat across from my mom, who was already overwhelmed with the divorce, and told her I would never succeed in any science-related field. She doesn't have the capacity, she said. You should consider vocational training. College isn't for everyone. My mom cried in the car on the way home. Not because she believed it, but because she was too exhausted to fight back. I sat in the passenger seat and made a silent promise to myself. I kept that report card, the one with her comments. Carried it with me through community college, through nursing prerequisites, through every single exam I thought I couldn't pass. I still have it in my desk drawer. Fast forward more than a decade. I'm a nurse now. For years, my high school teachers made me believe I was stupid, but I wasn't. I graduated college, passed my nursing boards, built a career helping people during their worst moments. Last week, a patient came into the clinic where I work. I walked into the room to take her vitals and get her ready for the doctor. She didn't recognize me. I look completely different now, and I changed my last name when I got married. Then I introduced myself with my full name, my maiden name, the one she knew me by. I watched her eyes widen. The recognition hit her face like a truck. "I was in your biology class," I said calmly. "Freshman year." She remembered me. And here's the thing. She actually looked excited to see me. Started telling me she was proud of me, like she had any right to that word. Then she said it. The thing that proved she hadn't changed one bit. "I never thought in a million years you would be my nurse."
I would have thought you'd made it as a receptionist if I ever imagined running into you at a clinic wearing scrubs. She laughed like it was a joke. I didn't laugh. Receptionists deal with more difficult situations than doctors and nurses combined. I know because I was one before I became a nurse. But that's not even the point. The point is that after all these years, she still saw me as the kid who was even Jane. I finished taking her vitals in complete silence. Professional, calm, didn't give her the satisfaction of seeing any reaction. But as I handed her chart to the doctor, I realized something important. Her opinion of me never mattered. It didn't matter when I was 15 and drowning. It doesn't matter now that I'm the one in scrubs while she's in the patient gown. She spent years making a depressed kid feel worthless. Now she needs my help to see a doctor. Some things just work themselves out. My parents dumped me in a foster home to travel the world with their favorite daughter, so I became the one they could never afford to face. I was 12 when they sat me down in our living room. Mom's hands were shaking. Dad wouldn't make eye contact. "We've hit some financial struggles," Dad said. "We can't afford to take care of you anymore." I looked at my sister Emma, sitting on the stairs behind them. She was coming with them. Just me, who was too expensive to keep. The foster home was 3 towns over. They handed me a duffel bag with a week's worth of clothes and drove away before I could process what was happening. Mrs. Miller, my foster mom, found me standing in the driveway an hour later, still holding that bag. "They said they'd come back," I whispered. She didn't respond, just put her arm around my shoulders and led me inside. 2 years passed. Not a single call, not a birthday card, nothing. Then one night, I was scrolling Instagram when I saw it. Mom and Dad on a beach in Thailand. Arms around Emma, all 3 smiling like they were living their best life. The caption read, "Finally free to chase our dreams. Blessed life, family first." I clicked on their profile. 6 months of posts. Bali, New Zealand, Japan, Greece. Every photo showing them happier than I'd ever seen them. Every caption about releasing burdens and choosing happiness. They didn't abandon me because they were broke. They abandoned me because I was in the way. I took a screenshot of every post. Then I got to work. Mrs. Miller had been pushing me to apply for this competitive scholarship program. I threw myself into it. Straight A's, debate team captain, volunteer work. I built a resume that would make admissions officers weep. When the acceptance letter came with full scholarship stamped across it, I posted it online, just once. Within an hour, Mom commented, "So proud of you, sweetheart. We should catch up soon." I deleted the comment, blocked them both. Fast forward to graduation. I'm walking across that stage, diploma in hand, when I see them in the crowd. They'd flown back. Probably saw my college announcement and realized their burden was now their meal ticket. Dad cornered me after the ceremony. "We made mistakes, Adam, but you turned out great. We're family. Maybe you could help us out for a while." "Help you out?" I said. "Like you helped me when I was 12? Mom jumped in. "We did what we thought was best. You did what was easiest," I said. Then I pulled out my phone and showed them the screenshots. Every post, every caption, every lie. "I've been documenting everything," I continued, "including the court records I found showing you weren't broke. You just didn't want to pay child support after your business failed." Dad's face went white. "I'm meeting with a journalist next week," I said. "She's writing a piece about parents who abandon children to fund lifestyle brands. Real inspiring stuff." "You wouldn't," Mom started. "Watch me." The article went viral 2 weeks later. Instagram influencer parents abandoned son to fund travel blog. Every comment section destroyed them. Their follower count dropped by 80%. Sponsorships evaporated. They tried damage control, posted apologies, claimed I'd misunderstood. But I'd given the journalist everything. Bank statements, legal documents, even a recording of Dad asking me for money at graduation. Last I heard, they're back in the States, working regular jobs, and Emma won't speak to them. She reached out to me last month, said she finally understood what they'd done. As for me, I just bought my first house. Mrs. Miller helped me move in last weekend. Funny thing about being abandoned. You learn real quick who your real family is. And it's never the people who left you behind.
On Christmas Day, Mom said, "You won't last a month without us." Now, they barely can afford a small apartment. I left home at 17 with nothing but a backpack and $340 in cash. My parents didn't even notice I was gone until 2 days later. Growing up, I was the placeholder child. My younger sister, Elsa, was the star. Straight A's without trying. First chair violin, full ride to Stanford. I was the kid who existed in the background, useful only for chores and comparisons. "Why can't you be more like Elsa?" became my mother's favorite sentence. My father just looked through me like I was furniture. The Christmas that changed everything. I'd been working doubles at a diner for months, saving every dollar. I bought my parents a nice dinner at their favorite restaurant as a gift. Elsa got them matching Rolex watches. Mom opened my envelope, read the gift certificate, and set it aside without comment. Then Elsa's boxes came out, and the room exploded with praise. "You're so thoughtful, sweetheart. These must have cost thousands," I said quietly. "I worked 60 hours a week for 3 months to afford that dinner." My mother didn't even look at me. "That's nice, dear." Then came my gifts. Elsa unwrapped a MacBook Pro, designer clothes, concert tickets. I got a $15 gas station gift card and a lecture about learning financial responsibility. My sister smirked. "At least you can fill up your crappy car now." Everyone laughed, even distant relatives I barely knew. I stood up, pocketed the gift card, and said, "I'm leaving." My father finally acknowledged my existence. "Sit down. Stop being dramatic." "No, I'm done." My mother's face turned cold. "If you walk out that door,
Don't expect to come crawling back. You won't last a month without us paying your bills. I looked her dead in the eye. Watch me. I grabbed my coat and left while they sat frozen at the table. The first year was brutal. I lived in a room above a mechanic's shop that smelled like motor oil. I ate rice and beans for months, but I kept the diner job and enrolled in community college, paying as I went. Meanwhile, Elsa graduated Stanford, and my parents bought her a condo in San Francisco. $1.2 million. Cash. They posted about it on Facebook constantly. I was eating ramen in a room with no heat, but I kept grinding. Community college led to a state university transfer. I graduated with a business degree and zero debt because I worked through every single semester. My first real job paid $52,000. I cried when I got the offer letter. Elsa, meanwhile, had been fired from 3 jobs. Turns out when everything's handed to you, you never learn to actually work. But my parents kept bailing her out, paying her rent, her car, her lifestyle. 5 years after I left, I'd worked my way up to a director position, 6-figure salary. I bought my first house at 26. My mother called me for the first time in 3 years. Elsa's going through a difficult time. She needs a place to stay for a few months. You have that big house now. I said, no. Excuse me? I said no. Figure it out like I had to. She started crying about family obligations. I hung up. Last month, I got another call. My father this time. Voice strained. We need to talk about a loan. We've had some setbacks. Turns out, they drained their retirement funding Elsa's lifestyle. The condo foreclosed. Elsa was back in their house, unemployed. 31 years old, and they'd just been evicted because they couldn't make rent. My father's voice cracked. We're your parents. You owe us. I thought about that Christmas. The gift card. The laughter. My mother's cold eyes saying I wouldn't last. You were right about one thing, I said. I did learn financial responsibility. That's why I'm not bailing you out. But we're family. No, you're the people who raised Elsa. I raised myself. I hung up. They're living in a 1-bedroom apartment now. All 3 of them. Elsa sleeps on the couch. Last week, Elsa sent me a message. I hope you're happy now. I am.
On Christmas morning, my mom punished me by giving all my gifts to my step-siblings, donating the console my dad brought me, and saying I embarrassed her. I walked out, and now she's alone, after losing custody, her marriage, and even the stepkids. Parents divorced when I was 10. Mom remarried Steve 2 years ago. He brought Ryan, 14, and Maya, 12. Our house became a stage for my mom's perfect blended family fantasy. Matching pajamas for photos, forced game nights, every holiday choreographed for Facebook. Ryan played lacrosse. Maya did competitive dance. I kept my head down, saw my dad on weekends. We coexisted fine until Mom made everything about proving we were united. Christmas Eve dinner. 20 relatives crammed in. Mom stood up mid-meal, wine glass raised. I'm so proud of this beautiful blended family. It takes love and patience to make everyone feel equal and included. She looked directly at me when she said equal. I muttered, nothing says family like being told you're one for the camera. My aunt choked on her drink. My uncle smirked. Even Grandma smiled. Mom's face froze. Then she laughed. Tight, high-pitched. Always the comedian, but her eyes didn't laugh. We cleaned up. Relatives left. Mom went silent. That dangerous quiet where she wipes counters like they personally offended her. Christmas morning, 6:47 a.m. Living room. Now, tree lit. Presents stacked. Ryan and Maya on the couch looking confused. Steve against the wall, saying nothing. Mom pointed at the pile with my name. You embarrassed me in front of my family. Today, you're giving your presents to Ryan and Maya. You're kidding. Pick them up. Hand them over. One by one. I gave away every gift. Hoodie, headphones, basketball shoes. Ryan took them slow, looking sorry. Maya's hands shook. Through the window, Mrs. Patterson walked her dog. She stopped, squinted through the glass, watched me handing off presents. Our eyes met. She kept walking. Doorbell rang. Dad stood there holding a Best Buy bag. Merry Christmas, bud. He pulled out the console I'd wanted for months. Mom blocked him. He doesn't get that. Linda, it's Christmas. He humiliated me. My house, my rules. So you took every gift, and now this? Actions have consequences. Dad pulled out his phone and hit record. Say that again. Mom's face went red. You don't get to show up twice a month and play hero. Ryan spoke up. Maybe he should still get one thing. This feels wrong. Mom spun on him. Stay out of it. She grabbed the console. I'm donating this. Walked out. Door slammed. Dad looked at me. Get your stuff. I packed in 10 minutes. When I came downstairs, Mom still wasn't back. Ready? Yeah. At Dad's apartment, my phone exploded. Someone sent a TikTok link. Maya had filmed the tree that morning. You couldn't see faces, but the audio caught everything. Mom saying, hand the next one to Ryan. The door slammed. Caption, Christmas vibes. Comments. Wait, is that his mom? She took all his gifts? By Monday, the whole school knew. Ryan texted, people won't stop asking. Coach pulled me aside. Maya turned off comments, but kept the video up for 2 days. Too late. Screenshots everywhere. Wednesday, Mom yelled at the principal about lies spreading. Dad called a lawyer. We're filing for custody. He had 2 pieces of evidence. Maya's TikTok and his video of Mom taking the console. First custody hearing. Mom told the judge Dad was unreliable, that I was out of control. Dad's lawyer played both videos. Judge raised his eyebrows. This was Christmas morning? Mom waved her hand. He embarrassed me. I was teaching respect by confiscating every gift. My house, my rules. Ryan and Maya both submitted statements. Ryan wrote about kids calling him Grinch Jr. Maya wrote about Mom yelling at her for the TikTok instead of caring she was getting harassed. Judge ruled, temporary full custody to Dad. Mom stood up. This is ridiculous. Judge moved to the next case. In the parking lot, Mom cornered Ryan and Maya. You made me look abusive. Ryan said, you did that yourself. She pointed at him. Watch your mouth. He walked to Steve's truck. Maya followed. Steve looked at Mom. You're not helping yourself. That night, Steve slept in the guest room. 2 weeks later, Ryan and Maya started staying at their aunt's on weekends. Mom called them traitors. Posted Facebook rants about fake family. Dad got permanent custody 6 weeks later. Steve moved out. Took Ryan and Maya. Filed for divorce a week after. By spring, Mom lived alone. No kids. No husband. Her own mother stopped answering texts. At Ryan's lacrosse game last month, I sat with Dad, Steve, Ryan, and Maya. Mom stood at the far end, alone. I walked past her to Dad's car without stopping. She didn't say anything. Neither did I.
What's the best way you've seen someone rebel against school rules? Our high school had this ridiculous no water bottles policy because some seniors once filled them with vodka. We all suffered through constant dehydration, especially athletes like me who had practice right after school. The administration's solution was to add one extra water fountain that always had a line of 20 thirsty students between every class. My friend Zach, captain of the swim team, had enough after nearly fainting during practice last week. Coach even sent him to the nurse, who basically told him, drink more water, which was the whole problem in the first place. Zach spent the weekend plotting his rebellion. On Monday morning, I was at my locker when I heard whispers and laughter down the hall. I turned to see Zach walking proudly with a medium-sized glass fishbowl complete with blue-colored rocks, a tiny plastic castle, and some fake seaweed. Inside was a single, realistic toy goldfish swimming around in circles. He carried it carefully with both hands, water sloshing slightly as he navigated the crowded hallway. When our principal, Mr. Reynolds, spotted him, he did that thing where he adjusts his tie before confronting a student. The hallway went quiet as he approached Zach. "Mr. Henderson," he said in that fake, calm voice, "what exactly do you think you're doing?" Zach just blinked innocently and said, "It's my emotional support fish, sir. Doctor's orders." He pulled out a folded paper from his pocket. "I have a note. His name is Hydro, and obviously I need to keep him hydrated." Mr. Reynolds examined the note, which I later found out was written by Zach's mom, who happened to be a nurse at the local hospital. He couldn't argue with the medical exemption angle. "Fine," Mr. Reynolds said, clearly annoyed, but unwilling to challenge medical documentation. "But if that thing spills, I'll be extremely careful, sir," Zach promised with a straight face. Throughout the day, whenever a teacher wasn't looking, Zach would casually dip his hand in the bowl, scoop up some water, take a tiny sip, then continue taking notes like nothing happened. By lunch, the entire school was buzzing about Zach and his emotional support fish. Tuesday morning, 5 more swim team members showed up with their own fish bowls, each with increasingly elaborate decorations. When questioned, they all produced similar notes about aquatic therapy for stress management. The school nurse was completely overwhelmed trying to verify all these sudden fish prescriptions. By Wednesday, it had spread beyond the swim team. The basketball players carried those massive team water coolers between classes, claiming they all suffered from collective hydration anxiety. Someone even brought a decorative indoor fountain that they actually plugged into the wall during lectures, the gentle trickling sound driving teachers crazy. The drama club was the most extra. They showed up in tows, carrying a replica of a Roman bath fountain, taking dramatic sips while reciting Shakespeare. The final straw was Thursday, when the chess club somehow managed to drag in an actual kiddie pool that they set up in the commons area during lunch. About 12 of them gathered around it, using paper cups to hydrate their collective emotional support tadpoles that were supposedly swimming somewhere in the cloudy water. Mr. Reynolds called an emergency staff meeting that afternoon. Friday morning's announcements included a tour statement. After reviewing student wellness concerns, the administration has decided to permit transparent water bottles on campus, effective immediately. All aquatic life must remain in the biology.
When did you realize your family was using you? Every Christmas, my family held a gift hierarchy, where presents were given in order of Dad's favoritism. I was always last. This year was different, though. I had just gotten my dream job as an engineer. For the first time in my life, I had real money to spend on everyone. I spent weeks planning the perfect gifts. The total came to over $3,000, but I didn't care. I arrived Christmas morning with everything wrapped perfectly. We walked in, and the usual routine started immediately. Dad directed traffic like a circus ringmaster. "Kyle, you're first this year. Promotion at the law firm deserves recognition." Kyle picked up the expensive whiskey I'd brought. Dad beamed as Kyle opened it. "This is incredible. Thanks, Dad." My stomach dropped. Dad just nodded like he'd picked it out himself. Emma squeezed my hand, confused. "Rachel's next. Medical school graduation gift." My sister grabbed the jewelry box. Mom clapped as Rachel held up the vintage necklace. "Mom, this is gorgeous. You have such good taste." I started to speak up, but Dad was already calling my nephew over. "Tommy, come get your surprise." My nephew ran to the gaming console, whooping with joy. "Grandpa, this is the best Christmas ever." Emma looked at me with growing horror. I felt sick. The pile of presents I'd brought was disappearing, and everyone was thanking my parents. Finally, Dad turned to me with that familiar smirk. "And for our youngest son, who's finally getting his life together." He handed me a crumpled gas station gift card, $25. "Thanks, Dad. Very thoughtful." Dad clapped his hands together. "Well, looks like that's everything. Who wants coffee?" Everyone started chatting and moving toward the kitchen. I sat there staring at the gift card while my family enjoyed the presents I'd bought them. Emma leaned over. "Are you going to say something?" I looked around the room. Kyle was already pouring the whiskey. Rachel was taking selfies with the necklace. 3 years of therapy suddenly clicked into place. I stood up and walked to my car. Emma followed, asking what I was doing. I popped the trunk and pulled out a huge bag I'd left there. "What's that?" she asked. "In." We walked back inside. Everyone was in the kitchen now, laughing and drinking my whiskey. "Actually," I announced, "I brought something else." I opened the bag and pulled out a thick stack of papers, gift receipts. Every single present I'd bought. The room went quiet. "What are you doing?" Mom demanded. I walked over to Kyle and held out my hand. "I need that bottle back." "What? Why?" "Because I bought it and I'm returning it." I pulled out the receipt. Kyle's face went red. "You can't just take back a gift. Watch me." I took the whiskey and placed it back in its box. Then I walked to Rachel. "The necklace too." "Are you insane?" She snapped. Nope, just done being invisible. Dad stood up, his voice rising. What the hell is wrong with you? You want to know what's wrong? I said, boxing up the necklace. I spent my Christmas bonus on all of you, and you couldn't even let me give my own gifts. I moved to Tommy, who was clutching the gaming controller. Sorry, buddy, this is going back too. But Grandpa gave it to me. No, he didn't. I did, but apparently that doesn't matter in this family. Mom tried to intervene. Stop this right now. You're ruining Christmas. I'm ruining Christmas? I laughed, continuing to pack everything up. You've been ruining my Christmases for 30 years. Emma helped me carry the boxes to the car behind us. The family was erupting. Kyle followed us outside. You're being ridiculous. We didn't know you bought those things because Dad made sure you wouldn't know. Just like every year. Rachel joined him. We can't help how Dad organizes gift giving. You could have said thank you to the right person. Dad appeared in the doorway, furious. If you take those gifts, you're no longer welcome in this house. I loaded the last box and turned to face him. Good, because I'm done pretending this is normal. Here we go. 67.
I went to a comedy show, got called ugly, and cried. I'm 25, and for my mom's 59th birthday, I took her to see one of her favorite famous comedians last night. She's been obsessed with this guy since the 90s, has all his specials memorized, quotes him constantly, even has a signed poster in her office from when she met him at a book signing 12 years ago. This was supposed to be her dream night. She'd been talking about it for months. I bought the tickets back in February as her birthday gift because she never splurges on herself. When they arrived, she literally cried happy tears. The week leading up to the show, she kept asking what I was going to wear. She wanted us to look nice for photos. She even bought a new dress specifically for this. I hadn't seen her this excited about something in years, not since my dad passed away 3 years ago. This comedian was one of the things that helped her through her grief. She'd watch his old specials and actually laugh again. So when we got to the venue and she saw how close our seats were, she grabbed my hand and said, "Front row, baby, we're doing this." I immediately felt my stomach drop. I told her I really didn't want to sit that close. I just wanted to enjoy the show from a safe distance where I wouldn't be noticed, but she looked at me with those pleading eyes. "It's my birthday. Please. I've waited my whole life to sit front row at a comedy show. Just this once." I couldn't say no to her, not after everything she's been through, not when she was this happy, so I gave in and figured it couldn't be that bad. Maybe he wouldn't even notice me. The show started and he was hilarious. My mom was laughing so hard she was crying. I was actually starting to relax and enjoy myself. He interacted with a few people in the front rows, mostly people around my mom's age. He called one woman gorgeous, told another she had a beautiful smile, complimented a guy's shirt. Then, about 30 minutes in, he locked eyes with me. I felt my entire body tense up. The comedian and the crowd were all around my mom's age. I stood out as probably the only person under 40 there. I knew this was coming. He walked right up to our section, microphone in hand, spotlight following him. "And who do we have here?" he said, pointing at me and my mom. "Mother and daughter?" My mom beamed. "Yes, it's my birthday." The crowd clapped. He smiled at her. "Happy birthday. How old?" 59, she said proudly. He looked at her, then at me, then back at her. Then he paused for effect. The kind of pause comedians do when they're about to drop a punchline. "Wow, and how old is your daughter?" 25, my mom answered, still smiling, completely unaware of what was coming. He stared at me for a long moment. The entire room went silent. Then he said, "Are you sure about that? Because she looks like she must have been in a fire or something. She looks way older than you do." The entire room erupted in laughter. My mom's smile disappeared. I felt my face go hot. My throat tightened. I couldn't breathe. He kept going. "No, seriously, what happened? Did you age in reverse and she aged forward? Because something's not adding up here." More laughter. I wanted to disappear. From where I was sitting, basically no one else but the comedian could see my face, so they had no idea I was about to cry. He moved on to someone else, called another woman in the front row stunning, and continued his set. But I couldn't hear anything anymore. The rest of the show was a blur. I sat there frozen, trying not to cry in front of hundreds of people. The second the show ended and the lights came up, I lost it. Tears just started pouring out. My mom grabbed my hand. "Honey, no, he didn't mean it. It's just shock value." But it didn't feel like shock value. It felt personal. It felt like he looked at me and decided I was the one person in that room he could tear down for a laugh. The entirety of the way back home was my mom trying to console me, telling me I look young for my age and I'm obviously very attractive. I struggle immensely with my self-esteem and social anxiety. I'm in therapy for it.